Okay, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. Call the meeting to order. It's 5:31. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. At this time, I need a motion to amend the agenda to add an action item in order to accept the audit report.
I'll move to amend the agenda to include the acceptance of the audit report.
And second that.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, I do need a motion regarding the approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda with the amendment.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to announcements. First, the board would like to take a moment and thank the generous contributions this district has received from its supporting partners. First one being Matt Smith of Rathdrum Trading Post. He has donated bunnies to every first grader, and this is not his first year in doing so. He's a repeat donator. It's pretty awesome. Next, we'd like to thank Post Falls Walmart for their donation of over $8,000 worth of school supplies. We have Charlie and the Rathdrum Super One. We'd like to thank for the hundreds of backpacks that were filled with school supplies. The Family Guide donated Chromebook cases, mouses, it's not mice,
I call them mice.
and other school supplies. Thank you very much. We also have the Coeur d'Alene Elks Lodge for their donation of dictionaries to every third grader. Marcus Anderson Family Foundation for their donation of $25,000. We did recognize them at the last board meeting. Staples for their donation of various school supplies. Corsa Development Group for their donation of $16,500, which they were also recognized at the last board meeting. And the Kootenai Tribe of Idaho has donated, again, $2,000 for I guess the donation goes to education. We do typically give this funding over to the Lakeland Education Foundation. Okay. So thank you all so much for your contributions to our district. It is greatly appreciated. I would like to take this time to also remind everyone that these board meetings are our business meetings held in public. They are not public board meetings. The board is governed by Idaho Code Title 33, Chapter 5, IDAPA rules, and follows district policies. The time for public input is provided for the public to express themselves to the board. It is not a time to engage with the board, nor is it a time for question and answers. The board, in its discretion, may ask clarifying questions to ensure it understands the input provided. However, no discussion or conversation takes place at this time. On that note, do we have public input? I'll go back to employee spotlight. I just realized I'm so tired. Okay. We're going a little out of order, just so everyone's aware. Okay, thank you. The first person asking to address the board is Judy Fujimoto.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I didn't know if there would be one, but I just wanted to come and express a concern that I crossed over and I'm just not sure I understand completely, and so I just want to present it and let you guys think about it, talk about it if you think it's something we need to do. It's It's from the Idaho Statutes, Title 39, Health and Safety, Chapter 38, Minors Consent to Treatment. Infectious, contagious, or communicable disease, medical treatment of minor 14 years of age or older, consent of parents or guardian unnecessary. Do you want me to read this to you?
You want to read the statute to us?
Yeah. Do you want me to?
Well,
Continue?
Yeah, just know that you do have 3 minutes.
Oh.
So, yeah, I didn't know, is there a...
Okay, well, it's just the, my understanding of it, okay, notwithstanding any other provision of law, a minor 14 years of age or older who may have come into contact with any infectious, contagious, or communicable disease may give consent to the furnishing of hospital, medical, and surgical care related to the diagnosis or treatment of such disease if the disease or condition is one which is required by law or regulation adopted pursuant to law to be reported to the local health officer, such consent shall not be subject to disaffirmance because of minority. The consent of the parents, or legal guardian of such minor shall not be necessary to authorize hospital, medical, or surgical related to such disease, and such parents, or legal guardian shall not be liable for payment for any care rendered pursuant to this section. So I just have a letter from someone in the community relating to this and how it was interpreted by them.
Okay.
And that is pursuant to this title, consent of treatment to Idaho statutes, and in light of the recent missteps from the CDC all the way down to individual providers, it is clear that healthcare professionals alone must not be tasked with assuring the best interest of the minor's family, or the community. Furthermore, our great state of Idaho is one of only 7 states where parental consent is not required even for the administration of vaccines. Because healthcare professionals must never take unilateral healthcare decisions for a minor 14 years of age or older, and to assure that those implementing treatment plans have the minor's best interest in heart, it is imperative that parents be involved in the treatment planning. This will help assure that those decisions are not based on healthcare professionals' ego, employer mandate, political party affiliation, or pressure from the big pharma. With this in mind, I respectfully request in the next legislative session, the Idaho's House and Senate review, revise, and update this particular statute of the Idaho statutes to reflect the inclusion of parents in the decision-making process, and that the governor sign the legislation without delay. The decision to treat must ultimately rest in the hands of parents, guardians, in consultation with a trusted health care professional, unless that right is waived by the parents, guardians, or courts. In the event that a parent, guardian cannot be reached, declines, or is unable to participate in the decision-making process, or refuses to acknowledge procedures that are accepted as prescribed as being correct or most effective best practice, a court order must be obtained prior to any treatment beyond life-saving measures. So I just wanted to have you guys hear that. And I guess this letter was sent to Brad Little and Senator Peter Riggs and Representatives Ron Mendive and Tony Wisniewski.
By chance, can the board have a copy of that letter?
I can just give you this.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. The next person to speak is Will Griffin regarding Young Life After School Club, pre-existing school club that needs approval to continue, has been active for the last 2 years up until the semester, and is still listed among clubs on student handbook.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
My name is Will Griffin. I'm the Lakeland School District Community Director with North Idaho Young Life. I'm also a contracted facilitator for Eye to Eyes with Idaho Drug for Youth. For the last couple of years, I've been working with the Lakeland senior high schools. We've started an after-school club after spring break last year. Under Trent's advisement, I had been signed up as a volunteer coach to kind of support my role there. This year, we needed to reapply for the club to continue. I think that it was unable to meet the time restraints of the last meeting and was hoping it could be voted on today. I do have a lot of support from local parents. I think there's been some emails sent in to the superintendent from some teachers and parents that are wanting to encourage this after-school club to continue. It's basically just an after-school hangout. We bring some pizza, hang out and play games, just a good relationship building time. So yeah, I would like to see it continue.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Next input, there's an email for public input. The email is Dear Superintendent Arnold, Assistant Superintendent Pasley, Principal Eberlin, Clerk of the Board Ms. Santiago, GSA Club Advisor Ms. Johnson. It's come to my attention that all clubs in the district were approved with the exception of the GSA Club. My child, Casey DeVore, was the co-president of the GSA Club last year, so this was disappointing news for us. I have enclosed a letter with attachments and would appreciate it if the clerk of the board would present to the Lakeland School Board members at their next regular meeting. So we all have the attachments. Okay. Now going back up to the employee spotlight, I apologize for overlooking that. We have the Idaho Region Counselor of the Year, Erin Clayson. She's at Timberlake High School, Career and College Counselor. Congratulations.
Is Erin here? No.
No. All right, moving down to reports. You all received the chair report. Do you have any questions? Do you like my colors?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. No laughing, Dave. That's just basically kind of a summary of what I've done since the last board meeting. Moving on to the Long Range Planning Committee update. We have the agenda from the September 26th meeting. Randy, I believe you were at this meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or input that's needed regarding that meeting? Moving into the staff reports, we have the financial report from Brian Wallace. Do we have any questions, comments on that this specific financial report? One question I do have, with the middle school that we established for this year, is there a reason why it is Mountain View and not its own entity?
The funding comes through that alternative school, so it's part of, it's separate, but it's because of the way the funding is coming as an alternative school. We call it the Lakeland Middle School Academy.
Right, no, I understand that. I mean, it seems like, okay, so as far as funding, are you saying that everything comes under the Mountain View name? Just like the funding would only come for Timberlake High School, or the funding would come for Lakeland. So it's all just going to come as Mountain View. Okay.
And Mr. Uzzi at Mountain View High School is the principal overseeing the middle
Right.
school academies.
Right. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions on any of the financial information presented? Maybe not.
Okay.
Okay, next we have the audit presentation. We were given a draft financial statement and presentation. And I believe Tony's here to present.
I am.
Okay.
So I think on that second tab is the actual presentation in slide form.
The presentation should happen.
This one was.
Just click, yeah, that's what I shared with you, so you click the presentation to get the Google slide.
So this is something the board hasn't seen?
It's
No.
the same one in the
Provided to us.
PDF, but it's just,
There's a PDF of these slides in your board packet.
Just for, no, there wasn't. We have two attachments. One says the presentation, but it's the actual graph discussion and analysis.
yes,
No.
that's the presentation.
Yeah.
Yep.
This just allows them to be able to click through each slide instead of scrolling through a long page. They're the
Yeah,
same.
this we were not provided this.
I think you were, it's just I have a title page, so if we get to the second
Okay.
slide.
You just hit the slideshow, Rosanna.
Yep, there you go. And then I don't have a
And then
clicker.
if you want, you
There we
could
go.
you could go
Yep.
ahead in the mouse and you can click
Oh,
through.
I can click through. So this should align with the presentation that you got in the board pack. Well, thank you for having me. My name's Tony Matson. I'm the district auditor. We finished up the audit this year. We are issuing an unqualified opinion, which means that the financial statements are fairly presented. One of the things I wanted to talk about before we dive into the financial statements is we have the financial statement audit, and then as part of the audit, we ended up doing what's called a single audit, which is a compliance audit when there is so much federal award money being spent at the district. So if there's over $750,000 of federal award money, then a single audit is required. It's a compliance audit. We come in and we're looking at the structure at the school to see if the internal controls are there to provide reasonable assurance that all your grant dollars are being spent properly. I want to mention that you guys have always had a single audit, but this year the total dollars in the single audit was $8.3 million. So historically the district has been getting about $3 million. It was 8.3 this year, it was 6.7 last year, and then kind of pre-COVID. So there has been a lot of dollars coming into the district over the last couple of years, and that will probably continue until these ESSER dollars run out over the next couple of years. But I just thought it was an interesting point. We had a clean opinion on the single audit as well, but I just thought it was interesting the actual amount of dollars that have been flowing into the district with all the COVID-related dollars. What I wanted to do today was run through your three major funds: the general fund, the debt service fund, and also your capital projects fund. And we're going to start with the general fund. General fund began the year with a fund balance of $6,984,000. Revenues last year were $39,968,000. Expenditures were $37,965. And you ended the year with a fund balance of $8,987. An increase of just over $2 million this last year. If we look at your historical revenues and expenditures, one thing that I've added here, this top line has your 23 budget. We want to get ahead and got that from Brian so we can kind of throw it in and give you some comparison about where you're going to be. So a lot of the numbers for the current year ending are going to be one down. When I look at this, primarily it's just good to see where you guys have been and where you guys are going. Your revenues have been greater than your expenses in the general fund in each of the last 7 years. And you are budgeted to use up some of that fund balance in fiscal year 23 with that budgeting for about a $2.6 million use of the fund balance in fiscal year 23. When we look at your overall fund balance for the district, a couple different things that I wanted to go through here. Number one is the two light colored lines. That is the district's fund balance policy. So the district has a policy as of right now that talks about trying to maintain a fund balance between 8.3% and 16.6%, which effectively is 1 month. 1 month is 8.3% and 16.6 represents 2 months. So a fund balance of 1 to 2 months worth of operating expenditures in your carryover funds. You can see that's not historically how it's always been. Up to 2019, that was actually at 5% and 7.5%. So you can see that little jump in 2020 when that policy was updated. The darker line here is going to represent your actual fund balance. That peak right there is the ending fund balance at the end of 22 at that $8,987,000. That represents about 2.5 months worth of operating expenses in your fund balance. One of the things I like to point out is your fund balance does not necessarily equal cash in the bank. It's going to also represent any other outstanding receivables that you guys may have. Your actual cash at the end of the year, available cash, was about $6.1 million. So quite a bit different from the 8.9, but you had $6.1 million of available dollars. You had accrued payroll of about $4.3 million, so that's going to be a payroll that's due, that we have the expenditures in fiscal year 22. So if you were to minus that out, you roughly have about $1.8 million of actual available cash after you guys go ahead and pay those accrued expenses. That's one of the reasons why that fund balance is important to maintain between that 1 and 2 months. So look at your revenues a little bit closer. Last year total revenues were $39,968,000. The top wedge there, your local dollars, which is really going to be your levy, came in at $10,202,000. That was an increase of about $400,000 year over year, and that corresponds with the increase in the levy that happened for fiscal year 22. The big picture here, and this is what I've seen in all the districts, is your state dollars. Total state revenue this last year were $29,119,000. That represented an increase of about $4.2 million year over year. After the holdback in 21, the state has went ahead and they released that funding. You had increased on funding on support units and overall base support of that $4.2 million. Almost all of it was base support increases. Along with that base support increase, the support units, so the way that the district is actually funded, also went up from 220 to 241. So not only did the state fund more per support unit, there was about 20 more support units at the district this last year, all leading to that additional $4.2 million from the state. The other revenue, $646,000, is primarily FCC grant that the district received for $560,000 to cover the cost of some Chromebooks. If we look at your historical percentages between your state and local revenue, I like to look at this and just kind of get a sense of where all your dollars have historically been coming in. You can see in 2018, for 2017 to 2018, you had a change. What was that big change? 2017, your levy was $5.3 million. 2018, your levy was just under $9 million. That was like when the big change in your levy increased. And obviously your percentage, at that point there was a much higher reliance on your local dollars coming in than the state. Since that time though, the state has been funding more and more, and you can see that that percentage of your reliance has actually been falling, finishing 2022 at about 25.5% of your dollars coming in from local. As a comparison, Lewiston school districts, their percentage breakout's about 39% local, 61% state, and Moscow is 48% local, 52% state. So at 25%, the district is actually on a percentage basis, one of the lower percentages that I see in all the district audits that I do, which means to me that you guys are doing good in terms of managing your money and such, and you're really utilizing those state dollars. If we look at your expenditures a little bit closer, total expenditures last year were $37,965,000. That was an increase of about $4.3 million year over year. When we break that out, your instruction expenses were $22,400,000. That was an increase of about $2 million year over year, primarily all salaries and benefits. On the support side, total support expenditures were $15,345,000. That was an increase of about $2.4 million. $1.9 million of that was salaries and benefits, and about $500,000 of that was related to other purchase services and materials and supplies that the district purchased over the prior year. One of the big changes there on purchase services was you had about $208,000 more in contract special education costs, and this is what I've seen in all the districts having trouble hiring someone and having to contract that service out. So that your district was not immune to that same situation and had about $200,000 more expenditures there. Your transportation costs last year were up about $186,000 year over year, and your tech costs were up about $100,000. The transfers of $219,000 represented your required transfer to the bus depreciation account of $146,000 and a $125,000 transfer to the Medicaid fund. If we look at your historical split out between support and instruction, again in 2022, 40.4% of your total dollars were spent on support, 59% on instruction. That's fairly consistent with where you guys have been over the last couple of years. Your support dollars were a little bit higher this last year, and that's sort of reflected in the increase in the salaries and benefits there. But as a baseline, I look at this as 40-60. So 40% of your expenditures are support, 60% instruction. You're right in the ballpark of what we see with a lot of the districts. Look at your total payroll, which represented about $4 million of your total increase last year was payroll and benefits. Your 2022 total payroll was $32,966,000. That was an increase of about 12.7% year over year. You can see fiscal year 21, you actually had a dip in the payroll, and that was budgeted. That's what the district decided to do. With COVID, there was kind of a holdback and some, I guess, overall caution going into the fiscal year 21 year. So 22, those salaries kind of come back to where they were pre-COVID. And you can see that you guys have budgeted about 9.7% increase in salaries and benefits for fiscal year 23. If we look at your expenditures from that same angle, total payroll and benefits represents about 86.8% of all the general fund expenditures. So at the time the district signs your contracts, you've basically committed 86% of all your money for the general fund in the current year. The other expenses of the $4,999,000 is going to be everything else: utilities, supplies and materials, purchase services, capital outlay, and your transfers. General fund expenditure analysis. So again, looking at your payroll and benefits to your other expenses. Ending last year, that 13.2% other expenses and 86.8% is payroll and benefits. You're right in that historical trend that the district has been, and I tend to look at this, kind of the baseline here is 85%, 85-15. So you guys are really close to that percentage, but more importantly, you're fairly consistent along the way over the last 10 years there. To look at your debt service fund, your debt service funds began the year with a fund balance of $2,533,000. Your revenues this last year, or your bond levy of $958,000 and your bond equalization payment of $35,000. You made your principal payments of $1,315,000 and interest payments of $147,000 last year, and ended the year with a fund balance of $2,068,000. That fund balance, that $2 million, is really there to cover your August payment. So in August, you guys turned around and made a $1.4 million payment for your bond. So typically, you need to make sure you have that in your fund balance to roll over to make that payment. Capital Projects Fund began the year with a fund balance of $1,789,000. Your revenues last year were $1,540,000, which represents your tax levy, your bus depreciation, and some other transfers that came into the Capital Projects Fund. Total expenditures last year were $1,700,000. $1.2 million of that was really capital outlay projects: roofs, fencing, flooring, parking lots, HVAC upgrades. There was a lot of capital outlay spent this last year. And the other portion of that was really ongoing repairs and maintenance. Ended the year with a fund balance of $1,628,000, a decrease of about $161,000 this last year. As you guys all know, fiscal year 23 no plant facilities levy. So the balance that you have here will be able to continue to cover these type of expenses, and then at the point this is exhausted, then it's going to be more of a general fund situation for covering those additional expenses. Overall, it was seems like a good year. That's basically been the story for all the districts that I've been auditing the last couple of years. All the additional COVID dollars have led for other sources to cover salaries and benefits and other ongoing expenses. And I've watched that the fund balances have been going up because of that shifting of expenses. It will be interesting once all the ESSER dollars and the COVID dollars are going to run out, because these last couple of years have been fairly hard to budget with all the different dollars coming in. Are we going to get these dollars? There's now starting to reallocate other ESSER dollars that weren't used the first round, and so there's just going to be there's a lot of moving pieces right now. But overall, your general fund's in a good spot. Having 2.8 months worth of operating expenses is a good spot. Debt service fund seems to be operating just exactly like it should. Capital projects got the $1.6 million, and overall it seems like the board and management's doing a good job of managing the finances. Any questions for me?
I have none. Nope, I'm good.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We need that back.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that being said, it would be the audited financial statements that we would be accepting. So I don't know if you all want to look over those real quick. Answer some questions. Brian, on the audited statements, we show a loss in property taxes. I'm just curious why that would be.
A loss of property taxes?
Well, we show that on revenues in 2020 to 2021, we took in 12 million, and in 2021 to 22, we only took in 11 million. Am I not reading that correctly? Isn't that a loss? I'm just curious, I mean,
I guess where are you reading that?
I'm on the draft financial statements.
Right.
Page number 9.
Page number?
9.
Sorry.
Yeah, there.
Top page, go up.
Keep
Oh.
going. There you go.
Right there.
The only reason I'm asking is because of what the county treasurer is trying to do. Is this? I mean, that's like a lot of dollars that we didn't collect.
Well, I think in 2021, we had a larger bond collection,
Okay.
I believe. And that would have been, the biggest variance.
Okay.
I can take a look and get those exact for you.
Okay.
But we've been reducing our bonds, and the fund balance at our bonds were up at a certain level.
Mhm.
So we've been able to reduce those collections the last couple of years.
Okay.
As we start winding our bonds down in the next 2 years. So the biggest variance would have been, we reduced our bond collections.
Okay.
And we also might have had did we have an emergency levy in 2020, 21?
Not in 21, 22. We did not.
No, but 2020, 21, we might have had an emergency levy.
We did
and,
have an
We
emergency
did.
levy.
and that would have been the difference also.
We would have
Okay.
had that additional funding that year that we didn't
Correct.
have this
Okay. Okay.
last year.
And then in the anticipation of once the plant facility levy is gone, that will be decreasing as well.
Yeah, so for this year, yes, we collected that 11.6. And I actually shared that with long range planning. next year we're gonna collect, as far as our L2, they're outside the tort levy, we have the 9.5 million of the supplemental levy for this coming up year. We have almost $1 million of the bond levy, 986,000 or something like that, so effectively 10.5, and tort is gonna be about 10.6. So yeah, we'll be $1 million less than 11.6 because we don't have the plant facility levy, which would have made up that difference.
Okay. Thank you. Another question. On the child nutrition, I thought that was cost neutral because everything was being funded by federal dollars, that we had no expenses in, basically no expenses in child nutrition, but we're showing $1.6 million or almost $1.7 million expenses.
We have the expenses, but we have the dollars coming in to offset those. We still have the expenses, we still pay for the food to be served to the kiddos, but we're getting more funding
To offset
to
this.
offset that amount.
Alright. Okay.
Yeah, so our revenues were the revenues were more than 1.6.
Right, well, the revenues are up here somewhere, they just you don't see it. I mean, they're there, you do see it, but it's not lined out, is all I'm saying. That's all, okay.
Right, but yeah, we definitely had a good year in food service as far as revenues exceeding expenditures.
Okay. Perfect. And then we went from, with the entire district net position, we went from 24 million to 30.9 million, 30.890733. We had a $6 million increase. Okay. And that's the general fund. Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, thank you. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to accept the audit well, we need to accept the financial statements, isn't it? It's not. We need a motion to accept the audit report, as presented.
I'll move to approve the audit, to accept the audit report.
Thank you. Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the safety update. Looks like everybody's been doing well.
Lots of training.
Was this done on the professional development days we just had or before?
It was on the 30th,
Okay.
29th and 30th.
Okay. So fairly recently.
Yep.
And I'm glad to see our guest teachers have taken an initiative to.
They actually requested it, and so
Good.
our armed district safety specialist put it together, and we spent half a day with them.
That was great.
Very beneficial. I received a lot of emails from guest teachers thanking us for taking the time.
And it's gonna take about the entire year.
With all of the cameras and the access
Okay.
doors that we're going to put in, just, it's pulling all the wires and, so
Okay.
he'll tackle, he's gonna start with the elementary schools and then move on.
Is he a one-man show or really? Oh my
He's
goodness.
really good at what he does.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think the technology crew is going to provide him some assistance when he's pulling the wire, but when he's actually doing the install, that's a one-person job.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the safety update? Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, old business, we have the Lakeland High School track. We didn't vote on this prior. because Mr. Jones asked if the high school would have any skin in the game for acquiring a new track. Because we're doing all that we can to make sure you get a new track.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. Come up there.
Sure, you guys can come on up. Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you.
Out
from the back. Yes.
You can holler from the back, Mr. Neff.
Both Mr. Neff and Mr. Wolfman are here with new haircuts.
Well, you both look very handsome.
Oh, how's that?
Love your haircut.
Thanks.
They're like, okay.
To answer your question in short,
glad you noticed.
we would love to offer whatever we can out of the correct budgets. We have what's called an L club for every single one of our clubs and activities, and those monies we prefer not for it to come out of there, just specifically because those are kids and coaches that went out and raised that money for their own program. So if you were to look at all of our budgets at Lakeland High School in totality, it looks pretty good. But when you start breaking down, football, wrestling, swimming, volleyball, they all have their own set monies to where those were all kids going out and earning that money. But we have no problem whatsoever from either our athletic budget to pitch in some of that. And obviously we can't drain our account because we still have to support our athletics and things like that. But we have absolutely no problems putting some money towards the track. So it's extremely important that we get this pushed through. And I don't know if you guys are aware, roughly 7 years ago, this was put into, I believe it was a levy to where both tracks, Timberlake and Lakeland's, were to get done.
Correct.
However, it was grossly underbid, from my knowledge of me going back and digging up some of this information, to where really both tracks put together were just enough to do one. So then at that time, Timberlake's was a little worse off than Lakeland's, so then we said, well, do Timberlake's. And so at this point, we're running on asphalt is basically where we're at.
Can you talk to the board a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing with community businesses for improvements in our facilities at Lakeland High School?
Yeah, in a short time we've tried to create some different partnerships around town with different things. We started with girls softball dugouts. Boards were rotten and the metal needed to be replaced, so we reached out to get the lumber. They donated pressure treated wood for the entire project, so we were able to get that done. Parents, coaches, they did all the labor. We've remodeled the outside bathrooms. I think they're the original ones. Everything was original in there, which I don't know how many years that is, but 30-some years of use. Sawyer Plumbing stepped up really big. They redid all of the toilets and fixtures. There's a company just out of town here, and I think it's Northwest Epoxy Flooring or something. They came in and redid the entire floor. It's a green and gold epoxy. It's really cool. We partnered with the Booster Club, and we painted the inside and the outside during the summer. We're just kind of rolling up our sleeves, doing different projects that we can get done so we don't have to come and ask for those things. So we're just trying to knock them off one by one. We're going to redo some flooring in the auxiliary gym through that same company now. They donated before, but I'm gonna pay for flooring to be put in there because it's old concrete and it's cracked. None of it's finished. It's just kind of unsightly. So we're just picking different projects and going out to the community and partnering up, and it's kind of amazing how generous the communities or the businesses in our community have been, and we have made sure we thank them and just reach out to them like, what is it we can do for you since you were generous enough to help us with these. And what else have we done? We had a company came in and redid some of our shot put pads for the track. One of the dads that owns a concrete company came in, new gravel, everything. We have a father, a baseball player who's went out and got a brand new baseball scoreboard donated. They're partnering with Bayshore that's right here in town, drilling the holes. So we're trying to minimize the impact that has on coming to the taxpayer and saying, or the district and saying, hey, we need this, because the needs are great, but we're trying to find as many ways in which we can solve the problems ourselves. I think the track is one where we really do need your help. We appreciate your help in making that project a reality, because it is long overdue.
It is a huge, it is huge. And I appreciate you, pointing out that when the levy was sought after, it was to cover both tracks, and that didn't happen. And we're very much aware of that, and we want to actively pursue getting the track taken care of. And not trying to be I also understand that that levy also helped pay for charter buses, helped pay for referees, helped pay for, we're constantly on the uniform rotation. So the levy did support all the athletics, and I'm a little concerned if kids were actually out fundraising, because that was the purpose of the levy as well, to prevent kids from having to go pedal to earn money for whatnot. So I would be interested in knowing how that came to be. I mean, if kids were actually fundraising when we told the taxpayers they wouldn't be, that kind of concerns me, because we're in the climate that we are in right now. I mean, we are in a yucky climate. But
well, outside of officials and uniforms,
and charter buses.
Right. If you want to go somewhere now that we've communicated to these different programs, look, we can't do everything.
Right.
So they're now under the understanding if there's someplace you want to go and it's going to cost, you're going to have to do a little fundraising,
right,
an extra. And and we've had it for a while. These Parker tickets that we sell. Parker Toyota has a tremendous fundraising opportunity that they do for Post Falls, Timberlake,
right, they
and
do
ourselves.
That.
And I think we've raised close to $25,000. It goes 100% back to the programs. They don't take anything. So it's, as far as fundraising goes, you can't beat it. So that's primarily how our different groups fundraise. It's not the sole fundraiser, but it's for sure.
Well, and to me, that's a community fundraiser. That's not our kids going out door to door. I mean, which I do know they do, but it's more about community awareness to me, at least from that perspective. I think it's a great fundraiser.
And we're very cautious of that, and having our kids going door to door. In fact, some of our programs get very creative and even ask, fundraisers to where you're getting aunts and uncles from Colorado that wanted to help with the program, so we're not just going door to door.
Okay, good. Okay. So, with respect of having looked, because I know the Booster Club came to us and they're trying to help pitch into, what amount do you think the school could pitch in towards this, so we can figure out an amount that we need to contribute to the track?
I could kick in 10,000.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I talked to my track coach, and she knows what the need is. I mean, her L Club isn't very big, and she was thinking, she's new, and she goes, I don't even know what I need yet, so she's a little apprehensive.
Right.
But yet she wants it, and she goes, but if there's something I can kick in, I will kick in.
Okay.
So, I mean, she's committed, she's vested, and, it's not much money, but she is willing to do that.
Okay. Has she looked at the track samples because we're looking at them, and it's really easy to say, let's go with the cheapest, or let's go with the most expensive, or I'm more of a middle of the road kind of a gal, but we're not running around on the track.
Yeah. We have a couple of kind of experts in our school. Shannon LaFontaine, who's one of our principal assistants, long-time track coach, very knowledgeable, and she was part of the Kootenai track resurface when that was done, and so she knows a lot about it. So I send her all the stuff that's Brian shared, and she's extremely knowledgeable. So I don't know where we're at as far as the final decision on that.
Well, we were given two samples. Two samples to choose from, and I just would want to make sure.
The middle of one, Brian, last.
Yeah, there's really, overall, there's really sort of two products. One's more the spray, the other one is, where they put the surface down. generally if you go, it's really where the board, where you're comfortable going as far as dollars. If you go with the higher end product and colors, you're looking at about $250,000. I mean, just in that range. If you're looking at just the spray and black, looks like we can get it for around 125, 130, 140, depending on that. If you add color, it adds, if you did the higher product and black, it would reduce that 250 probably down to about 220. So it's, obviously any of those options are going to be better than what's there now. I think the higher end product will provide a better surface for a little longer and have a longer life. But there's, those are the things that you always weigh when you do capital projects. You can pay up front, maybe have less of a life. So, sort of where the board is comfortable and, moving forward at, sort of that. We also did have a product that was over $400,000 that was, quite a bit upgraded, and I talked to both the vendors and they said, yeah, it's a great track, but for a high school track that's, you're getting to a pretty high level product, and it's probably not necessary that you'll still have a really good surface at, definitely at that 250 range, and we're going to have less of a life if we did the spray and you went with the black and went with the lowest cost option. The expected life is probably going to be 10 to 15, where the higher product's really going to be more 15 to 20. I mean, those are the things that they were explaining to us.
So last time when we had, remember we had that blue, which seemed sort of thin and really, none of us were impressed with the blue sample. But we had the red one, which ended up, we finally figured out was that plexi-track accelerator from that one company.
Track Doctor.
Track Doctor,
Yeah.
right. And that was the one we all said, do you remember those colors with the samples that we got, the blue and the red? Have you guys seen those?
The red was the thicker foam.
Yeah, it's,
Matt might do show them to those.
yeah.
I haven't seen those.
Anyways, it was multiple, it's 4 layers. And it says it's top coated with a polyresin, ensuring uniformity in years of UV light and stable color. And actually, when we went through and read through all this low cost maintenance, blah, 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 it seemed like a pretty good product. And that was sort of the, when we spoke, the consensus, and that was $221,220. The board already committed to $175. Leaving a deficit of 46, if we chose that one, 46,220. If they give 10, then now there's 36,220. We have to figure out, maybe the booster club can come up with that, I don't know.
The Booster Club was looking at trying to get a grant,
Right.
which I thought was around 50,000.
So I think that's where, yeah.
Our booster club?
Yeah.
Yeah, the challenge with the grants is none of it's guaranteed, and there's no
Correct.
timeline on it, and so, and I asked the booster club today, knowing we were gonna talk about this, I said, what is it you guys are willing to do here? And they said, well, we'll commit some money, but I mean, it's not gonna be anything that goes from 175 to the 240. And the 175 too, the challenge with that original bid was, the booster club went out and they did a lot of work, and she reached out to this company, it was all the way out of Florida. I'm not convinced that that company from Florida doesn't think that we're talking about Lakeland, Florida, because they're so far
Right, there
away
is a Lakeland, Florida.
that
Yeah.
I don't think that bid would be accurate. I don't think
Probably
that
not.
company is gonna come
Yeah.
clear to North Idaho for 175 based on
Right.
Track Doctor, and these are close, so
Well, we chose the 175 out of the thin air because I think Trustee Jones came up with it because
Right.
we couldn't get it.
I thought it was based on
So
the
we
bid sheets
said,
of bid, okay.
here's a
that
number
makes
that-
sense, okay.
And then the other thing,
When the subject first came on the table, we were trying to figure out what to do, and in order to get movement on it, we said, okay, we'll commit $175,000. Now, what can Boosters Club do? What can the high school do? What can anybody else do?
Right.
If we need more than that. So I think that's kind of where
Yeah.
we're at.
Okay.
yep, exactly, yep. And then the booster club, when we had gotten all the emails back and forth, one of the grants or a couple that they were looking for is they needed a committed number to submit with their grant.
Okay.
So if we said this plexi-track accelerator, knowing there's a $36,000 deficit that needs to be covered. I mean, I
How
don't,
much time would we have to cover that? Like, I'm committed to doing that, but I can't commit Booster Club dollars because they're their own
Right.
entities, so I can't, I mean, I'll give what I can if that's what's gonna
Yeah.
get it going, but like with their,
well, it doesn't
we've gotta get it
say-
scheduled and,
Yeah, it just says that we have to accept this bid within 90 days, which is dated August 31 of this year. And that is a 5-year warranty, by the way. But it doesn't, it doesn't say, anything about what the payment
due,
schedule
yeah.
were, if it's in thirds or half, or it says nothing of that. Just says that we can contact them if we have questions.
well, maybe it's naive, but if we could commit to it and we could be in that 90-day window and get it scheduled and know we're gonna get this done,
Right.
I'll find a way to get it. I mean, it's my number one priority, so I'm committed to it. But I don't, gonna take my word for it.
Yeah, well, committing is submitting a purchase order to the vendor. That's the commitment. That's when they will, and then we're on the hook for it, right? Because we give them a PO.
And you're on the schedule.
Correct,
Mhm.
right. But yeah, until the vendor gets a PO, then
Right.
it's just a quote.
Right.
And I think given that, I mean, again, going back to someone else's promise that levy dollars were sold
Right.
for this, we have a commitment of $10,000. I think it would be great if the Booster Club could, you know, contribute, but in the off chance that, you know, we have to do this, there's no,
I think we just bite the bullet.
there's no
Yeah.
option.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think that we were all in sort of agreement on that red plexi,
Mm-hmm.
the multi-layer plexi-track accelerator.
And that was the
And then,
221, 220.
221, yeah.
Mhm.
and then if we are awarded a grant, then that grant can reimburse
Yeah.
the district.
Absolutely, yeah.
that-
Yeah, don't just stop trying on the grant.
Right, no,
Just
we will
because we
continue
said
to
Right.
move that forward, yes.
But, so that you know, I say sign it, send it, commit, that, you know, we're here, it needs to be replaced, there's no 2 ways
Couple
about
of things,
it.
I really appreciated your sharing, the information about reaching out to businesses in the area and that
Yeah.
sort of.
Mhm.
You heard us earlier in the meeting trying to acknowledge folks who contribute to school districts, so it really would be good when you have particularly significant projects take place done by local business people or whomever. If you share that information with the board,
Yes.
so that we can
Mhm.
also acknowledge
Yeah.
those gifts.
Mhm.
And maybe, send a thank you letter or whatever.
Cause the reality
It's
is,
all part of building the relationships, I think, so.
well, we're only gonna be as successful as our community's willing to invest in this. So we need them to know that we are so appreciative and that we value that commitment with us, because it's just gonna make Lakeland great. Lakeland
Well-
School District, great.
A visible project
That's
such
what-
as this is going to be great because part of the original, I think it's back in 1990 when that land over there was part of that, when that was opened up, one of the requirements of that grant that they applied for was that's open to the public.
That's right.
Has to be open to the public.
That's
And
correct.
so they're going to be using that track all the time when they see that visible investment by the board and the school and
Right.
the different groups, it goes a long way. They really appreciate that too, because
There was,
we have people on it every day
Yes.
that don't go to the school.
Joint project with the school district and the city of Rutherford and the Idaho Park and Recreation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got some support that way, but we had a huge amount of volunteer labor that helped put that thing together too.
Yeah.
So keep the tradition going.
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you guys.
You're welcome.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let's do our free stuff. Have a good night.
So we gotta take action on this?
Yes, we do need to take action on the Lakeland High School track.
I move to approve the additional funding necessary to do the Lakeland track.
Up to 222.
The 220, the
Second.
full funding necessary for that.
I'd like to add an amendment that we specifically say that it's the track doctor for the Plexi-Track Accelerator that we're accepting in the amount of the 220 that was quoted to us on August 31 of 2022 would be my amendment.
Second your amendment.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the new job descriptions for the treasurer and the accounting specialist.
So on the major duties,
Which position?
I'm sorry, on the treasurer one.
Okay.
The bold items in the major duties and responsibilities, those are ones that I added, and those are pulled from board policy and state statute. I didn't specify.
That's okay, thank you.
Where those came from.
Okay.
And then the underlined ones, were just ones that I changed, they were already there, I just changed some wording,
Okay.
on those to align more with our board policies and state statute, just to make sure that the wording is similar and, yeah.
The only change that I want, again, is under the reports to, because the treasurer reports to the board.
I agree, yeah.
Can I just ask a question? I have some clarification about one of the items that you had, Tristan. Where you say pay all district bills upon authorization of the board, is that doing it the way we've been doing it, or are you anticipating a change? Is that the way that reads, I just wasn't quite
That
sure.
came directly from board policy, so. The way there's two different parts from our board policies that I kind of question, and I have that exactly what you just said, pay all district bills upon authorization of the board. That says to me, we're approving them before they're paid.
That's right.
That's not what happens. Correct. So if we don't really mean that, we need to take it out of our own policy. I mean, if we're gonna allow them to be paid ahead of time. Our policy also says that the treasurer is authorized to issue checks with the approval of the superintendent of schools for certain bills, such as investment checks, postage, petty cash, travel expenses, and various payroll withholdings. So those are the ones that are the ones that they are specifically authorized to pay before board approval, just on the authorization from the superintendent. Then that policy also goes on to state that the treasurer is also authorized to issue checks with the approval of the superintendent for certain special bills such as refunds, emergency services, or to take advantage of major discounts. So those are the only items that even should be paid prior to us approving. I understand that we also approve expenditures when we say, yes, go ahead and order buses.
Right.
But that's not authorizing to pay the bill. That's authorizing to
Acquire the product.
Encumber the dollars.
yeah, encumber those dollars. But if that's not the authorization to actually pay the bill.
I just want to understand what you want this to look like, because I'm thinking through what it looks like. This almost makes it sound like the board would have to authorize every purchase order, because if you aren't in the know on what the purchase orders are coming through, and you aren't authorizing the encumbrance of those dollars, and the order is made, and then the board doesn't authorize us to pay for the work or the thing that we've acquired.
But then again, we do by approving
So I just
your
want to
authority
understand
to
that.
spend those dollars, and we trust by hiring the superintendent and the operations manager that they will spend appropriately
Right.
and be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. So I don't think that we need to see every single PO, but those dollars.
Well, with the way that this is written, I guess I just don't know
Well,
how we bring that to you to get authorization before payment if we've already ordered the thing or we've had the work done. Like, we can't, you know, last year we had, and this would fall under that emergency, but we'll just use it as an example. Lakeland High School's boiler went out, we had to cancel school because we had no way to heat the building. We ended up spending, I think it was about $30,000 to repair the boiler so we could get kids back in school. We didn't have time to reach out to the board and say, we need your permission to do this so that's, I just wanna understand what that process is.
Doesn't that fall under the emergency?
Yeah, and that's what she said, is that particular incident would fall under the emergency services.
If a school turned in a PO for instructional supplies from Amazon for second grade because they're doing their art project, do we hold those until we get permission from the board? That's my concern, is that we could be putting ourselves in a situation where we're really putting obstacles in the way of getting some stuff done. So
Well, that's my concern, is that this is what our policy actually says that we're supposed to be doing, and if we're not intending to actually do it this way, we need to change our policy or change the way, because we're not meeting our own policy. Based on the way that we're doing it now. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention that
There needs to be policy revision.
they don't match, and
Right.
you know, that's why I didn't worry so much about that when I was doing this. I was sticking as close to policy and state statute as far as, you know, those duties of the treasurer, not necessarily how our processes will happen. But that was my biggest concern when I was trying to do this was those.
As a matter of practice, I understand what the policy says, but as a matter of practice, routinely, you have requests that come in for purchasing, based on your approval, purchase order is issued, product is bought, or service is purchased, bill comes in, the bill gets presented to the board, board approves payment. I think the difference that I see, just kind of thinking back as well, when you get into major expenditures, maybe we need to take a look at putting a dollar in on it or something like that, expenditure that exceeds $10,000 or $25,000 or something like that, must have board approval prior to, or something like that. That would be a policy change, but that would be more consistent with our practice, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that would be easy. That would be a policy that would be easy to do.
Right. I just know that the timing for, getting those bills paid in a timely manner so that we're not making we're not alienating our vendors and they don't want to do business with us anymore because we pay our bills so late because we're waiting for everything to come to the board before we let the check go out the door. I understand that.
But the treasurer works for the board, so she already has our approval to approve all that stuff, right?
But that's what I said. It just isn't consistent with
Our
what
policy,
our policy
doesn't
says.
match our practice.
That's not under duties of the treasurer. This one. So that's this. Oh, this is. Oh, this, pay all the district bills upon authorization of the board.
Be authorized for paying those. Right? That's how I read it.
Trustee Bean, what policy was that you?
It's 1230.
It's the duties of the treasurer.
Thank you for taking the time, Trustee Bain, to review that.
You are welcome. And I don't remember what our original treasurer job description said for basically the supervision of the assistant treasurers. But the control supervisor and direct assistant treasurers, that's wording directly out of statute. And that's why I changed it and underlined it. I changed the wording of it to be more precise too.
Is number 11 the same, also our statute with the other underline?
No, I changed the. Oh yes, I probably did. I changed it to match.
Statutory.
Match statutory. Okay.
So with that being said, shall we approve the treasurer job description tonight? Well, there is one correction. They report to the board. End story. Or do we need to kind of rework our policy first and then implement the job description so that they're parallel? I'm throwing it out there. It's a suggestion. I don't know. I think we can still approve the accounting specialist because we don't have any input on that. That's what's been presented to us, so that can get handled and move forward, and then this can be.
Because this doesn't really come into play until January when we appoint the next treasurer, because our current treasurer will retire on December 31st.
Right.
So we have some time to do that work.
Well, we'll have to make sure that when that happens, that we are.
Well,
if that happens in July, that we appoint, even though statute says that you do it in January.
No, we do it in January. Yeah, we do it in January.
The school district has to do it in January.
Yeah, because it's our annual meeting.
Okay.
Which is the first board meeting after January 1.
It's the one board meeting a year when I get to hold it out. For just a short meeting.
But if that's happening December 31st or in December, we would have to appoint a treasurer, or at least know what our intent is for that to happen before. Or we'll go in a few days with
interim treasurer.
For those few days between our board meeting and
the 31st of December.
Well, are we saying that policy needs to be changed consistent with what we think we're gonna have as a job description? And you want to get that done before we approve the job description, is that what I hear?
What I'm asking is, do we approve the job description and then revise the policy to go in line with the job description? Or do we revise the policy first and make sure that the two of them are in alignment and then approve the job description?
I can do it either way you want.
I think it makes more sense to decide on the policy, how we want that to work first, then make sure that the job description is aligned with that. That way.
And you have a couple months.
Because the policy should have
Right.
first and then
Legal.
the job description. Right.
Well, it'd be nice if it were in effect by November, so at least, people can wrap their minds around it.
Mm-hmm.
needs to be revised. I didn't have time to go back and look, but, we need to decide whether we're gonna make our own rule or follow statute.
Okay, so if we table,
Yeah, I think we need to table it and I guess work on it in the policy committee. So we can try and have it back by November so that we can have it all wrapped up for, filling your position.
and I thank you for putting the words specific to statute on this. Because that's important, and specific to our policy, because it's great that you pointed out there's conflict going on here. Okay, with that being said, I'd like to table the Lakeland Treasurer job description at this time.
Move to table until November meeting.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We need a motion on the accounting specialist job description.
Move to approve the accounting specialist position, job description as posted.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on into the consent agenda, we have the minutes from the previous meetings of 9/28 and 9. Did I?
Skip a week.
I told
stuff,
you I
man.
am super tired. Okay, so we have the super, I'm not as tired as you are. I'm just gonna lay that out there. But we have the superintendent follow-up. Thank you, Superintendent Arnold.
Yes.
You're doing an amazing job with your communication.
Thank you. Who is Justin?
Grotman, sorry, he's our network director. So his response was in red. And then the board asked for me to reach out to the highway district, which I did, and they actually said that that particular location is exceptionally safe to have kids cross and that they would not put a sign there.
Okay, but that's their opinion.
I know, it's their.
How many traffic studies have they done?
Probably not enough.
I don't think so. Is there any way we can advocate just to get it to happen? I mean, do we know what we could do?
They just told us no. Yeah. And it's their road, so.
Right.
Well, you can attend that for commissioners meeting and address the commissioners.
Oh, hey, there's my deer.
No, and,
Can we direct
send
the
a
letter to
to
be
the
sent
commissioners.
for public,
There we go.
public input at one of their meetings?
That kind of explains what's happened.
Why we're requesting it?
Right.
It's not about
It's not about
somebody's opinion of visibility, it's
Right.
the opinion of our district and parents saying it's unsafe.
Yeah.
That it's unsafe. The taxpayers are paying for those roads, so they're actually all of our roads, not just their
Right.
highway district roads.
Right.
So I will, submit a letter to the county commissioners for, as part of public comment. Is that-
The highway district.
The highway district, oh, not,
Not the county commissioners.
the highway district.
Yes.
And
Yes.
thank you.
I
I
asked.
believe that area right there is Commissioner Keats. Yes, I believe so.
Commissioner Tweet. Okay.
You can always ask him, but I do believe that's his area.
Okay, so the association leadership was not in agreement with an MOU for the positions requiring masters.
Yeah, they just would rather wait and have the conversation during the meeting.
Okay, so that means that we're not aligning the salaries, or we're not raising them up, is that correct?
This was specific to people who have to have a master's degree in order to work in classrooms. There are just 3 different, positions. And so they don't don't get the benefit because of the negotiated agreement language, they don't get the benefit of moving, having access to, or getting acknowledgement for the credits they took to get a master's degree.
Which was the purpose of the MOU, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we will address that. And I think their bigger concern was that we have some people who are on staff who are in that same boat who came out of different states, and we would need to address everybody and not just a few certain groups. So we want to do that through maybe.
Okay. The bigger picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I still have not heard anything from Dean Keck in Coeur d'Alene, but Brad Schultz, who is our safety specialist at Lakeland Middle School, sent me the links to those two documents for your perusal.
Okay, what's an access panel?
Those are the
The card.
the card swipe things.
Okay.
And then Chad's response was lengthy. One of the trustees had asked, how many new students do we have in Lakeland this year? So the total is 791, however, 350 of those are kindergartners, because they're considered new. And then anybody who didn't finish the year with us but came back would be considered new, even though they might have been here last year. So it's not a perfect picture, but it gives you an idea.
Any comments or questions on the superintendent's date? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Now we can move on to the consent agenda. Pushing us away. We have the minutes, for the 9/28/22 special meeting and the 9/14/22 regular board meeting. Any comments or questions on those? Nope. Those have to be accepted. We have the acceptance of the committee meetings. Any questions on those? I have a comment, Roseanne. On the policy committee meetings, I would like to start identifying who's at the meetings, especially since we have patrons in attendance. I think that's important to acknowledge their time to the district. Okay. So, do you have a list of who came to 9/21 and 9/25? Because we have people on both of those.
Yes.
Okay. So then I would like to table policy committee meeting minutes until they are updated. Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Then we also have the HR items. Any questions or comments on the memo, the board book memo? Look at all those lovely guest teachers.
Mm-hmm. It was a fun onboarding day. Good morning, it's been busy.
Yes.
The stipends list looks long, but I will point out to the board that we paid, so we did the iReady Math training for all teachers K-8, and we did it outside of contract time before teachers were required to come back.
Mhm.
So we paid them a stipend of $300 for that additional day that they came. And then we had some middle school and high school teachers who
do have some questions on the stipends.
Yes.
First one, for dual enrollment, the stipend that we're getting, is this stipend in addition to the adjunct contract payment provided by the college or university?
No, so those are, admin assistants.
Those are, they're getting, admin assistants or cashiers?
No, this is, it says extra days dual
Yeah,
enrollment.
yeah.
So we have some counselors.
No, those are the two admin assistants from both high schools that are assisting with enrollment for the dual enrollment. That's why they were getting those 5 extra days.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that I didn't have any that I know the counselors for those. Are those our dual enrollment kids or are those the dual enrollment kids?
Just,
Yeah. That's where it's going. So we have some private schools who the kids cannot access the advanced opportunities monies that the state has set aside for public school kids unless they're doing the dual enrollment or dual credit classes through a public school. So we have, for years, worked with some of our private schools to run their kids through our high schools. So at both high schools we have, I'm probably North Idaho Christian School and Mountain Genesis Prep. So those extra days, days that they're doing that outside of their regular contract time.
And it just seems that we have a lot of new principal assistants, is that accurate?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep.
And we didn't know we would need these when we issued contracts?
It's for extra, days, and so our contract is for 190 days, and so we have to issue a supplemental contract for the extra days that they work before and after the contract time start.
I show we're paying a stipend, to the LEA.
Our president, gets a stipend for the work that he does, the meetings that he holds with, us and his folks outside of his, contract.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been doing that for several years.
I've just never seen it before on a stipend before. What's a multi-tiered systems of support?
MTSS. So, that's a team of teachers at the building level who meet weekly to kids who are not at grade level, and they monitor progress through assessments to ensure that the interventions we have in them are actually causing growth.
Okay. And then, oh, sorry. I was up late last night. Why do we have it under the coaches, some coaches that are getting 2 stipends for the exact same amount in the same sport?
Oh, you're talking at the middle school level.
Well, I don't know, it just
So
says the
we
name of
have,
the sport.
yeah, we have, a couple of coaches. One is, ballet basketball. They have 2 different seasons.
Okay,
And so you might have a person that's teaching both seasons.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. The comment on the bottom, coaching stipends will increase if the board approves clerical changes.
So down below, there's gonna be an action item, regarding all matrices, we're supposed to get a 4% increase.
Right.
And the athletic coaching one was actually overlooked. And I had issued coaching contracts based on last year's number instead of the coaching salary matrix getting the 4% increase. So we're having to do adjustments on that 4% increase.
Yeah, but the board's got to approve that.
Yeah, I did wanna, hand you guys a list if, before, formal approval.
Okay, so these stipends will increase 4% if we approve.
On the coaches,
On
on the
the
athletic
coaches.
coaches, there's some extracurricular, activities, also that are on the negotiated agreement.
Right, okay. I was just excited to see that was not other
But I'm
program.
glad that they came.
Yeah.
I mean, $100 I think is worth their time.
And they appreciate the fact that we recognize they're giving up one of their days to come and do that, so.
There will be an additional list for you guys next month because of payroll cutoff time, trying to get all the stipends in to everybody, and then trying to get you guys what you needed. I was not able to get everything on your list, so that will be forthcoming.
I'm done, Bob. What are your questions?
I only want. The typical savings for Arctic Hill is $2,500. There's one listed for $6,200. Curious what's that about.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the hard to fill?
Yeah.
That, oh, so do you want to explain that?
Yep. So, as you know, our speech and language pathologists are very hard to find. And so last year we had a contracted SLP for the agency. Selina is who we paid, and we paid a significant more amount for her last year than this year. And so we interviewed her and would love to have her with us. And so her clause was that to cover some of the cost, the difference that she would make from her contract to that. So we approved that last March for her to be paid this year.
And that was prior to those hard to fill positions?
Being approved by you guys.
Yeah.
So the 62 is not really hard to fill, it's for something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
But since it is a hard to fill position,
Yeah.
that's how it was coded.
It's significantly less for us to do it that way than to continue to pay the contract that we were paying.
Contracted services are just very expensive.
Does anyone have any other questions? Or are you still reviewing the list?
So the hard to fill is just basically the, special ed teachers, is that what it was?
Yeah.
And psychs and SLPs, anyone that falls under special education. Certified.
How often do we do this is just a one-time?
Once a year, yeah. And that hard to fill stipend was new this year.
I remember that.
Given to just our current circumstances in the world right now.
Yeah, I think Apple with all year last year with the open position.
It's on the agenda to talk about.
So apparently the money's not enough.
The people don't exist.
Nobody.
I have questions.
I do have one more question, I'm sorry.
You're done.
Ask away, Bob Reno.
Yes.
I just happened to notice there's a stipend here for homework. I never get paid for homework. How do you get paid for homework?
Right? I would have done a lot more of it when I was in school.
That's the after school homework club.
Any other questions? Randy, any questions?
No, but I think I'm good.
Okay. Moving on to the regular and special bills. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
I have a couple questions on the regular bills. We're spending Seesaw, it says renewal for school family communication. Is this another communication tool? It's not Skyward or Dojo or email
It's
or?
similar to Dojo, so some schools use Dojo and some schools use, John Brown prefers to use Seesaw. It's an app that
Okay.
parents can put on their phone and then teachers can push information out to parents.
Looks like we're spending $17,892 for Cengage math curriculum.
So that is, we have two math, expenses, so, the Cengage one is, because we didn't do the high school math adoption last year.
Right.
They requested access to the digital platform for the textbook they're currently using.
Okay.
That's the cost of that.
Okay.
They will be adopting a new textbook this year as part of our adoption process, and so whatever they adopt will come with a digital platform. We won't have to continue to pay for that.
Okay.
And the other one is, there's a Houghton Mifflin,
Yes.
for 21,000.
Yeah.
That's the Math 180 that was approved as a supplemental resource that, Timberlake Middle School uses,
Okay.
for remedial, math students. It's designed to get kids to the point that by the time they leave middle school, they can take high school algebra and pass it.
Okay.
And we've had great success with the program.
What is Raptor Vista Management?
That's the tool that we use in our elementary school, so when you, if you're a visitor to the school, you have to check in at the office and give your driver's license, and they run it through, and it runs through the, FBI and state database for sex offenders.
Is that in every school?
All of our elementary schools, it's not in our secondary.
Okay.
Mostly because we don't have a lot of parent volunteers at the secondary level, but we have a lot of parent volunteers at the elementary level. And we, if it's a hit, that automatically comes to me in my email, and it automatically comes up to the principal so that, we can make some decisions about how to move forward.
Okay, I was just curious if it was, I mean, when you said that, because I know at Keeper they actually give you a little badge, but they don't give you a little badge to every school.
Right.
So,
Yeah, they
but
do
it's
it themselves.
scanning for just the driver's license. Okay. Those were just my questions. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you for being able to answer those.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it. So that's it, for the consent agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Move approval of our consent agenda.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to new business, we have, first up, the curriculum. Okay, I do have a couple of questions on what was provided, and I know that's not here tonight.
I will do my very best to help
Okay.
you.
On the extra math that Betty Keeper and Garwood, wants, how is that gonna work in conjunction with the iReady math, and why is it needed? Because it's a math program that looks to be like a digital component similar to iReady, and so I just am curious.
This is specific to math fact fluency.
Okay.
iReady is more about application of computation skills and the ability to read a story problem and manipulate the math.
Okay.
We are, when the math standards changed, the focus on fact fluency went away.
Okay.
And we've really seen that inhibits our middle school kids from, excelling at math because they're still counting their fingers. And so, we are doing more than the standards require of us. We are putting back the fact fluency requirements so that kids can master addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So this is just a supplemental tool, where that has games and things for them to be able to get to, audit to see what that's.
Okay.
It will not replace the instruction, it's just a supplement.
The illustration unit was too large. I didn't download it, but.
This one right here is illustrations.
Mhm.
I do not know what this is. So we can table that one and see if Dr. Pasley can
Okay,
get
just, yeah, very
something that we
standardized.
can open.
And then on the paragraph of the week writing, because it looks like, I'm assuming illustrations, but as well as the not so wimpy segments, those are all within our Google Drive. But the paragraph of the week, what got uploaded for us to review was the same as the not so wimpy vocabulary. So there isn't, yeah, so that needs to be revisited.
So we have the paragraph of the week and
Yeah.
illustrations need to be done.
And then with respect to all schools, all the pre-writing.
Thank you.
There we go. Love it. Words happening. On all schools, the Lena, my name's too small.
Oh, Lexia.
Yeah, Lexia, diagnostic, and the Power App. When I looked at it, it's another online reading diagnostic tool. How is it different from iReady, and how are we going to control what the children are reading? Because that was the problem with iReady.
So we asked that question.
Okay.
And with Lexia, we are able to tell them, we don't have any critical race theory in our schools. We don't have LGBTQ issues that are gonna be in our textbooks, and they can turn those filters, off so that those materials are not accessible.
Okay, but it is another situation when everyone's previewing what the kids are reading. We're just trusting that other people are doing what we've asked them to do. That's our diligence.
Yeah. Lynn is the point person on this, so she would be better able to answer those questions. So I would, and I know she can answer them for you because she had an extensive conversation about this issue.
Okay.
So I would recommend that we just table that until next time that she's here and she'll be able to answer your questions.
Perfect.
That should be 3,000 is all part of that same package.
Yeah. Librarians are asking for wild about early learning. This is more, I guess, education, because I'm curious what it's for. The site leads to downloading a whole bunch of different materials. Are the librarians doing this program?
We happen to have 2 librarians here with us.
Yay. I'd love to hear from them.
Sounds like Melanie can help us with this.
Yeah, because my biggest thing was if they're doing this program, because we can't see the program. I listened to the little video blurb, and the gal was, all excited about what they're doing without really saying what they're doing, and that there's links to download stuff. That was what it was.
This is, I'm not an elementary librarian, but
okay.
This is for the Family Read Week.
Okay.
And it was just some, they could apply for this, and it just got some materials like from an Idaho fishing game.
Okay.
And just some stuff about animals and stuff that they could implement in their Family Read Week. And so they got some books and some resources on that. So they couldn't really think that in, so they just sent you guys something to say about.
Yeah, I mean, the content isn't even there. I know it's Idaho fishing game, so I guess it's about wildlife and forestry,
It was just
but.
like animal stuff from the Idaho fishing game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
it looked like the parent input offered a lot of, curious comments.
Yeah, it was pretty thorough.
Yeah. It seems like brain pop seems to be, a concern, just for lack of understanding, I guess. And there's several books. Wow. Did y'all read through the parent feedback? Okay.
Yep.
And then we have everything said is untrue.
Yeah, so, our two librarians actually are here because that was one that was
tabled.
tabled,
Right.
and they both have read the book, and so they would like to just share with you, their input.
Okay.
I think I just wanted to.
Okay.
So this is Janelle Dexter, and she is the Lakeland Middle School librarian.
Okay, so my name is Janelle Dexter. I'm a librarian at Lakeland Middle School, and I'm here tonight to dispute the decision by the board not to allow the book Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nayeri into the middle school libraries as part of the Pacific Northwest Library Association's Young Readers' Choice Awards. As a middle school librarian of 20 plus years, I take my job very seriously. I am cognizant of my students' age and grade level and carefully check content and age appropriateness on any book that I consider for my library. I read hundreds of reviews from reputable library sites such as Library School Journal, Publishers Weekly, Kirkus Reviews, and many others. I also look at reviews from Goodreads and Amazon for reviews from the general public. I also take the time to read a book if I feel I still have any concerns. When I decided to promote the PNLA's Young Readers' Choice program this year, I very carefully went through their lists. They have 3 categories: junior, which is grades 4 to 6, intermediate, which is grades 7 to 9, and senior, which is grades 10 through 12. After carefully going through the junior and intermediate categories, I came to the conclusion that the junior category would best suit my middle school. I felt the intermediate category contained books that I thought had content more suited to high school than to middle school. After deciding on the category, I went through the reviews of every single book and found more than 80% of the reviews to be positive on each book. Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nayeri had some of the highest positivity reviews of all 8 books. When it was brought to my attention after the board meeting of August 17th that all the PNLA books had been approved except for Mr. Nayeri's, I took it upon myself to read the book. Before I did so, however, I read AD's written review to the board and was not only confused by what they wrote, but disturbed that they somehow felt this book was allowing divisive ideas to sneak into our schools, libraries, and society by having the attitude that these ideas are not a big deal. That being said, I was not sure what I was going to find in the pages of Mr. Nayeri's book. I once again looked at the reviews and found over 86% of the reviews on Goodreads and over 92% on Amazon gave this book 4 and 5 stars, as well as the glowing reviews from Library School Journal, Publishers Weekly, Booklist, Kirkus, and more. I found the book to be vastly entertaining. Mr. Nayeri states on the first pages of the book, in the 1001 Nights, Scheherazade, the rememberer of all the world's dreams, told stories every night to the king so he would spare her life. But in here, it's just me counting my own memories, and you, reader, whoever you are, you're the king. I found that statement so true because, like the king, I wanted to keep listening to the stories. I would stop and go about my day, but find myself wanting to know what story, what memory of the authors came next. There was so much humor in the book, and I found the stories of his time in Iran, Italy, and Oklahoma endearing. Another statement written by AD read, not having read the book, the statement about truth in the review concerns me, what the reader's own truth is, who owns the truth, who speaks the truth, who believes the truth. Mr. Nayeri's book isn't about getting the reader to believe any truth. It is, in fact, simply a book of his memories, a memoir of his time growing up in Iran, fleeing to a refugee camp in Italy, and ultimately coming to America when he was 8. He weaves Persian myths and legends into his story, his memoirs, to create a beautifully written piece of work full of humor to keep the average middle schooler engaged. I would hope the board reconsiders allowing Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nayeri into the middle school libraries. I would also like to thank the board for the consideration they have shown librarians by allowing us to read a book before it is dismissed out of hand, and that we can come to you with honest reviews regarding any disputed book. Okay, there we go.
And the last item there is from me. So I did not read the parent questions and concerns from the last board meeting. Didn't realize that Alex was one of those programs that was tabled because we had, I think, 2 parents who just asked the question: is this replacing the teacher? Is this replacing instruction? Alex is so iReady Math only goes through 8th grade standards, and we lack at the high school the ability to monitor student progress and growth in math. Alex is iReady for high schoolers, so it is supplemental. It does not replace the instruction, but it does provide us an opportunity to get a baseline of where kids are and then track their progress, which we're lacking right now. Okay. So I would request that we reconsider that one.
All right. Does anyone else have any comments regarding the supplemental resource from the conversation and discussion on the supplemental resource provided?
I just like to express appreciation for taking the time to thoroughly review that book.
That's my job.
Is anyone ready to bring forward the motion? Or would you like to have a discussion? I'm good. You good? You good? Are you still reviewing?
I sort of already reviewed, kind of like PDSUs. They're very slanted. They speak a lot about things that should be talked about home.
Okay. Does anyone want to bring forth a recommendation or a motion for a recommendation? We can't table the supplemental resources until is able to bring forth information.
Yeah, I move to approve, or move to table that, but let's be specific on what parts we have questions on.
Okay.
For that, so that we don't end up having the same unsure.
Maybe it's just the comments, everything is so everywhere, it's part of the hesitation, although I appreciate the review about the sad is untrue. My hesitation in that is, I obviously haven't read the book, and I appreciate somebody else did read the book.
I also read it if you want my review on it.
Sure.
This is Melanie Worthley to Merlin Middle School. She's also our lead librarian.
All right, I'm writing to you in response to the board tonight. Approval of the book Everything Sad Isn't True. I want to thank you for allowing the librarians to read the books and submit a review of the books that you have concerns over. I have read the book and I feel that this book is appropriate for our schools, and here is why. The book is about a boy named Caruso, later called Danny, who fled Iran when his mother became a Christian. She had decided to give up the names of She had decided not to give up the names of the leaders of the underground church, or she had to escape with her family. I like how his mother was so brave to move her kids to an unknown country to have religious freedom. Religious freedom is the American dream, and I think it is a good reminder of what it is like to sacrifice everything for our faith. Daniel further talks about living in a refugee camp and the difficulties of waiting for our country to accept them. He also shares his culture as a Persian and some differences in living in Oklahoma. There was maybe a little bit too much talk about poop in the book. But middle schoolers would relate to this. There was only one thing I thought was a little icky, is when he spoke of the first time he met his grandpa and how he was killing a bull. That was a little gross, but most kids in our district have experienced hunting, so this is not unusual for them. After reading the book, I read the 1-star reviews on Amazon about this book. Daniel's recollection about his childhood, I'm not a good public speaker.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Childhood are all over the place, and the book is a little bit disjointed, but that's okay. He's just remembering things back and forth. I also read that someone felt he spoke of being a victim and trashed the community that welcomed him. I did not think that he said those things. Sure, some kids were not super welcoming. My font is really small on mine. Which is typical for all students, but most of the kids were very interested in his stories, and he said many great things about coming to America. I hope the one negative review was over the top on Amazon. We all know that you would have some negative experiences moving to a foreign country as a refugee, and they felt he was much more positive than negative in retelling his memories. I would ask you to reconsider this book for our libraries, as I think we could all learn something valuable from Daniel's experiences.
And so this is for what grade levels is this? Middle school?
Yeah.
So 6, 7, and 8.
Any of the materials that were presented to us this evening were a little time sensitive.
I think the majority of them are library books, with the exception of the Lexia. Which is not time sensitive if we need to take them out. I would like Lynn to be able to answer the questions that the board has.
Middle school science, I know teachers wanted to start with that.
So I don't see middle school science under LMS. Most of their science things were approved last year.
There's the brain pop science and the brain pop 3 through 8.
And when you click on
management.
when you click on the brain pop science middle school, it looks like you're going
Lost a page.
Yeah.
Right. But if you click on the brain pop 3 through 8, it does take you to the science. Is this strictly a digital curriculum? I mean, I know it's supposed to be a supplement.
Yeah,
but it
it's
looks
strictly digital.
Okay.
So do we want further information from Lynn on that?
Well, I mean, the comment is, I was assured by the sales rep that any content the board would not want students to have access can be turned off completely. The frustration is having to click through every single thing, because they want this for science and for ELA, but we don't have anything on the ELA, we only have what was provided for the science.
Okay, so we do need more information on that. We either need to sit down and go all the way through this curriculum, or
Yeah.
So I put that on Lynn's list.
okay. Was there anything else that we wanted specific?
The illustrations wasn't accessible.
I made a note of that.
Paragraph for the week writing, paragraph of the week writing content wasn't provided. Extra math was okay. Alexius, recommendation to do. Those were just my concerns, just those guys. I'm a little, the parent input on the supplemental curriculum, I mean, there's a lot, which is,
It almost seems to be separated and
yeah,
put together.
yeah.
And speaking of electronic, I mean, you run into the same thing with the PBS daily news. I mean, there's no way you're gonna monitor
Exactly
that.
what is
or-
gonna be
yeah, there's
presented
just-
on a daily basis,
Right.
yeah.
And you're not gonna turn it off or on, or.
So do we want more information on how it will be used?
Yeah.
So if you wanna add that to the list on how the PBS will be used.
What school had that?
Uh,
Was that Lynn?
LJSD. I noticed there's quite a few books on there that are just replacement books, or like one has a lost, or two lost copy books, or things like that.
Under Timberlake Middle School, it says after school philosophy club curriculum. I don't know that club.
Yeah. I questioned that last night as well.
That didn't apply to us. So I don't know, there's no link to it, so we obviously can't look at it, but it seems like that short history of ethics goes with that, but I don't know what that club is.
Do you want me to tell you over?
Yes.
That's Mr. Kessner, our new seventh grade history teacher. He has a philosophy club after school. I don't know what he does in there, but he asked me to put that book on to get it approved, because he'd like to use that book in philosophy club.
But his club hasn't been approved by the board, so.
I don't know anything about
Okay,
that.
so I will reach out to Mr. Purdue.
Okay.
We have to go through that process.
Right. Okay.
Cart before the horse.
Yep.
Yeah, let's not spend money on a book that we're, for a club that we're not even prized to have. Okay, were there any other items that anybody wanted to add to the list? What do we want? So are we gonna table the entire list and just have Lynn bring back and we dig deeper before the next meeting into all of these, or are we just tabling specific items and?
That's up to whoever has the motion. My fear of tabling the entire list is November, we're gonna spend 4 hours on the list.
I don't see a point in tabling.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there were 7 books called out where they just said, I'd like to read this before I am comfortable saying it's appropriate. Out of that whole list, in addition to the things you guys have said, so.
Well, the last person that commented that left all the highlights with everything, which made it really hard to figure out what was going on. She has quite a few in there that I'm a little, I'm questioning.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
It looks like, you guys can chime in, but it looks like, like Garwood Elementary, John Brown, Eddie Kiefer, and Lakes Elementary. I mean, I don't see anything immediately, and I don't think there was anything said about any of the elementary ones were there. I think it was mainly just the middle school and the high school.
So you could table those books that were called out and the librarians could read those if they wanted to provide input.
I'll move to approve the supplemental resources, with the exception of the items that have been called out for further review.
Second.
I think motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Hey.
4 in favor, 1 opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to board policy.
Can you do something about Alex? Are you including all of those things?
Oh, actually, we need a motion regarding everything said is untrue. That was tabled, so we need to either approve or deny.
I would move to approve it based on the librarian, both of the librarians' reviews of the book.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey.
4 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries. Next, we need a motion on the Alex
Math diagnostic.
math diagnostic tool.
I'll move to approve the Alex math diagnostic tool.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving to board policy 3050. It's our attendance policy. We revised it and revised it again and revised it again and sent it out for comment. And then, so you have the, oh, and then there's an attendance letter. Okay. So did we not provide? Doesn't look like the comments were provided. Don't we usually provide? I don't remember. All right. Well, within the attendance policy, the biggest caveat is we're trying to get back to making sure kids are in school. And that if they're not, then we are we're going back to the way things used to be to get attendance back in school. We there was some comments, when we put it out for parent input and teacher input and everybody's input, that it wasn't quite crystal clear, so then we revised it and cleared it up so that, you know, elementary has these consequences, secondary, junior high, or middle school, secondary, high school. We did our best to clear it all up. Does anybody have any questions?
No, you guys did a great job on this. It's a lot of
It took
work.
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a flow chart. I like the flow chart. Oh, there are two of them. Did we have a second one? I didn't know we had a second one.
Yeah, I do not know where that came from.
I don't either.
Is it the same?
Oh.
I played with it to
Okay.
correct it, and I didn't delete the first one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so you want to keep the second with the blue colors and remove the first that's not, it's all black and white. Okay. That's fine. That's totally fine. I was just trying to figure out why you have two flow charts. Doesn't make sense. Okay. That being said, I'll entertain a motion on attendance policy 3050.
I move to approve the draft of board policy 3050 as presented.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We also have the attendance letter. Does anyone have any input that they'd like to provide on that letter?
I like the conciseness of it. Yeah, take out the extra. Yeah, gobbledygook.
Clean it up.
So we need to, sorry, I guess I should have waited until, or do we have to?
I don't believe we need to approve the attendance letter. It's just, we're just aware that it's there and what the language is in it.
I think it's auto-generated, isn't it? Doesn't that come out of, what was it, Skyward?
Michelle, Michelle
Yeah.
put the letter template and then it's
Yeah.
auto-populated. Just remember.
Moving on to the request to conduct research study, we've been approached by a graduate, a former LHS graduate, who would like to conduct a research study as part of his undergraduate work.
I don't think we have to approve anything. It's up to the parents, isn't it?
Oh, we have to approve it.
We have to approve that it's
in
not allowed
our schools.
the research to be conducted within our school district. That's what we're approving. We're not approving what he's doing, just whether or not we're gonna let him come into our district and do this research project.
We was just asking for parents to participate. We don't have to say so now.
Well, we do in the sense that we have to provide him with the information to our parents.
Or I had a conversation with him, I'm not comfortable giving him all our parent emails. What, if the board approves this, what I would suggest that we do is, give the links, to our principals and ask them to send that out to and then they can respond directly back to the former student, rather than giving out a bunch of information.
Alright. I don't like that. I don't wanna make more work for somebody else.
It's really easy because there's already a distribution list for Lakeland High School guardians, they just click the box and send, and I can craft the email with the links if the board approves this and send it to all of the principals and ask them to put it out to Skylar. I could also be the one to just send it out from the district level and not ask the principals to do it. It's a 3-minute process.
Somebody have any comment? I can tell you're totally in support of this.
Oh, Mary, I know Ben, he's fine.
It is a very strange study. that's one thing that I like, I don't like the fact people have to get photos.
But they get to choose whether they want to.
This is true, they do get to choose.
I'll move to approve the request to conduct the research study, provided you are willing to do the.
Let's say,
Have a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay. Bob's abstained, so we have 3 in favor, 1 nay, 1 abstain. Motion passes. Alright, so then we have the communications and multimedia specialist job description to approve.
So,
I love this, by the way.
with the reduction of administrators of the district office, Rebecca is running like a woman with her hair on fire all the time. With the number of meetings that Lynn, Kelsey, and I are holding with community members, and she's organizing those, and the part that's falling through the cracks right now is the PR part, which is so important with everything that we're doing to get our message out into our community. And so I am requesting that we post this position. It would be a classified position, and they would manage our website to make sure that it's pretty, that it's up to date, and then also our school Facebook pages and Instagram, all of the social media. So we have one person right now who's doing it for Lakeland High School, and she was kind of the impetus for this thought from my part. When I look at Lakeland High School and everything that she puts out, it's just done so well, and it's constant. They're constantly out there celebrating the things that they're doing, and if we could do that with all of our schools, I just think that would be really helpful. So I am requesting this position.
I just have to be me. I brought this up a few times. We've needed this forever and a day. So I'm glad to see you improve it. I think it's a great idea. Yes. Do we know what grade this will fall into?
What?
Grade?
Like eighth grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about admin assistant, just because there will be a lot of responsibility with all of the different social media platforms and the website.
Perfect. A
lot of organizing pictures and events and making sure that we're staying on top of all of our schools.
So this is a new position, a new hire.
Yes.
Does anybody have any conversation?
Out of curiosity, who is the point person to deal with the press in the event of an emergency situation? Lucky.
I know. I've actually taken classes. So right now I feel like I probably have the most experience doing it.
Okay, so I move to approve the communications and multimedia specialist job description.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the North Idaho College MOU.
Yes, this, we actually received this earlier, and I signed it and set it aside and then neglected to bring it to you, so I have not sent it in to them yet.
Oh, okay.
This is our annual MOU with North Idaho College, which allows their practicum students, so their Ed 201 students, to come in and do 30 hours of observation in our classrooms. It's the first ed class that you take.
Okay.
as an education major, it kind of lets you get your feet wet a little bit and decide if this is really what you want to do. And so this is just a renewal of our annual MOU. Nothing has changed.
Okay.
This is essentially the same agreement we've had in place for some years.
The only change is the person who now is in charge of placing the practical students. That Gail Ballard used to be that person, and there's a new person in that position. But the MOU language is the same.
Move approval.
Second. Take a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to House Bill 793.
Yes, so House Bill 793 was enacted and it set aside money last year for stipends or bonuses for all educators, and then additional money to be paid this year just to certified teachers. And at the superintendent's meeting, this topic came up, and all other schools in Region 1 are using ESSER dollars to pay the rest of the staff because we are struggling so much with our classified staff. And so when I was asked if Lakeland was going to do that, I felt like that needed to be a board decision, so I'm bringing it to you. Brian did budget almost $800,000 of ESSER dollars to pay for additional staff that we hired in the fall, expecting that we were going to need to add quite a few, and we didn't. I think we added 4 or 5 maybe at most. So the money was budgeted for salaries, and if the board wanted to approve this, that money is there, I guess, already budgeted in this budget for salaries. I would hate to be the only district that's not doing that, especially for the classified staff.
So what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is that we provide the same stipend to the classified staff that the certified staff is getting.
Same dollar amount.
Same bonus.
Same dollar amount. Which is what we did, I think, last year.
Yeah, I believe if someone was a 0.5 partial FTE, we gave, it's either 0.5 or the
yes.
full.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't get down to 0.6, that's sort of the cutoff.
And the estimated total dollar impact is for all employees, or just support personnel, the 500,000. That would be our part. And part of that is, so the state's gonna give us the $1,500 for the certified teachers, but we don't get it for all of the certified teachers, so we will have to put some money in just because of the way their formula works and how they deliver the money to us. That would be our portion. Our total cost. And this will all go out in December payroll or?
November.
November. How will you communicate to staff the reason this is happening?
To honor the work of all of our staff. I mean, I will send out, we send out a monthly newsletter, so I'll put that in the newsletter out to the staff. In appreciation for the dedication and service. Yeah. Not to be expected in the future. Exactly. $110.
No dedication in the future.
Yeah. No, the money's not expected in the future. These are $110 as a token of our appreciation.
You don't have those thought processes. Don't let the door hit you. I did run this by Jason just because the governor did go out of his way to make sure he was honoring the teachers, and I don't want to downplay that, but I do want to also honor the rest of our staff who
is here day in and day out doing the hard work.
Right.
Absolutely.
I move we approve superintendent's recommendation of payments as outlined.
Second it.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the salary matrix for coaches.
So this is the oops that we're trying to correct, when we, added the 4% to all of our salary matrices, we missed the one, under extracurricular in the negotiated agreement, so we're just asking permission to go back and remedy that mistake. And then, Brooke will do what Brooke needs to do on her end to, make that correct for the people who've already been paid those stipends.
So we already paid the stipends at the 4% increase?
No.
Okay.
No, but we've paid coaches stipends for like our fall sports, so she would go back and do just a one lump sum difference between what they
So
got
she
paid
would
and
pay them more.
what they should have gotten paid. Correct?
Yeah, they'll have a little October bonus.
What's the financial impact?
Yeah.
It was part of the overall package when we determined what the cost was going to be to the district for the whole IBB process last year. It was factored in there, we just forgot to apply it, and change the salary matrix when we did it.
Oh, then, yeah,
It's
I
not-
move to approve it then.
It's not-
It's just trying to get this done.
We
It's
can
already
Jason
been
do that.
approved.
Well, I don't know, I know we looked at, and if it wasn't in what we looked at, how is it that we approved it and agreed to it when it wasn't provided to us? I mean.
Well, when we came back with the package, the
Okay.
package was 4% on all matrices, and we just missed that one matrix. But that was part of the overall cost to the whole package. It was calculated in there.
So it was in the calculation, it just wasn't in the.
It wasn't in anything we saw, cause we saw the other matrices, and I thought we saw the coach matrices.
Right, you
But-
did, it was in the negotiated agreement, we just
Right.
didn't add the 4%, and
Okay.
Brooke just caught that.
Okay.
Oh, Jason caught it. One of the two of them caught it.
So, the motion's on the table to approve, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
I did.
Alright, motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the PhD Catch Your Breath MOU.
Yes, and,
XYZ.
Rosanna pointed out to me today that I did not put the link in as I normally do to
Right.
the document, so I apologize for that. So, Panhandle Health, has a train the trainer kind of a program. Catch Your Breath is, a program that, teaches about the hazards of vaping. And so we have some health teachers who are interested in taking the training and then seeing what the program looks like. The training wouldn't cost anything, Panhandle Health will pay for that. Any of the materials would come to the board for approval before they're used in the classrooms. However, just that we're having so many kids vaping that they are looking for a way to have a conversation about the dangers of that particular habit.
Okay.
And so they just would like opportunity to participate in the training, and then again, if they feel like it's appropriate for their health classes, then we will bring the materials to the board for approval.
Okay, and you say there's no cost involved to the district?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a $400 per person cost, Panhandle Health is covering it.
And Panhandle Health is putting on the presentation?
Okay. Each district is allotted a certain number of slots, and then beyond that we would pay, but we don't have.
Okay.
Lakeland's got like 15 slots, and I think we have 2 or 3 teachers who are interested in doing the training.
And we don't know what the materials will cost?
No.
Okay.
Nope. And I don't know what they look like, so until they do the training and bring them back,
Okay.
I move to approve it. It's no cost to us, and just to get an understanding of what the program is.
Yeah, I think it's called Catch My Breath. Yeah, I'll second your motion.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on, did I forget anything, people?
Good job. You did it.
Moving on to the discussion items. We have policy 8245 for unpaid school meal charges. This was brought up in policy committee, and we directed that this come before the board. It wasn't really something for the policy committee to discuss or weigh in on. Kim, do you want to talk about it? Sure. Okay.
I'm Kevin Bale, Food Service Director. So can I answer any questions for you on the current policy?
What is your protocol with respect to the unpaid meals?
So the last couple of years we haven't had to worry about it because everything was free. Typically, especially in the elementaries, we've always tried to do an emergency lunch for students that exceed the 3 meals. So we've still continued to do that until we could get this clarified. But generally speaking, what we would do is we would give out a negative balance notice once a week. And it's usually at the elementary, they work directly with the teacher, the school office, to get those letters home to parents, and then we would reach out with a phone call if we hadn't heard anything. And then that's kind of, and then really just kind of on a weekly basis, they just keep distributing those low balance letters. So at the end of the year, typically we're on average, like non-COVID year, our budget's about 1.4 million, and of that, probably 800 to 1,000 is in unpaid meal charges, which has to be reimbursed back to the food service program. So from an overall perspective, that 800 to 1,000, it's still money, but it's relatively low compared to most districts. We do have, there are some community members that do volunteer to pay some of those charges from time to time, so maybe it knocks it down $400 or $500. But we've always tried to feed the kids in the district.
So, do I understand the district reimburses you for those unpaid meals?
Right, so we can't carry over bad debt, so at the end of the year I have to print a report for Brian, and then those funds have to get transferred from the general fund back to food service.
So from a business perspective, you would normally do that as a write-off, wouldn't you?
It becomes an expense to the general fund, and it's a requirement of the National School Lunch Program. So
so we're not totally without obligation to the food service program. Is that right?
yeah, well, the district, I mean, so there, if you didn't, we've done a good job of keeping that minimal over the years. I've talked with peer districts and some who have, haven't, tried to hold the line and be responsible. I mean, it got up to significant dollars, maybe $100,000.
And we wouldn't want that.
No, I mean, before pandemic, we were really minimal, a few $1,000s a year sometimes.
Maybe it was 12 or 13.
12 or 13. It's been, we've done, I think, a pretty good job trying to balance, making sure we meet the needs of the kids, but also that if you don't qualify the program, that you need to pay for the lunch as a parent.
And then at the end of the school year too, as well as the high schools, they'll actually withhold report cards from students until they pay all their fees. So whether it's food service or library fines or whatever. So if they're in high school, if they're a senior, then they're gonna have to pay that eventually.
The elementary school, we have principals who pay for kids' lunch costs because parents don't, so. Yeah. So there are a lot of people who pitch in to try to help with that. Oftentimes, what I found when I was principal at an elementary school is that the parents weren't paying because they couldn't afford to pay, but they were too proud to fill out and embarrassed to fill out the free and reduced lunch application. So teachers also get really good at just going to Costco and stocking up in their classroom on snacks and things that they can give to the kids who are not coming with money for lunch.
So I guess the direction I'm looking for, just so I can communicate this to my staff, is sort of what the expectation is. Do we continue with the emergency lunch at the elementary school, and it doesn't occur all in the middle or high school, but what's your preference there on?
And the emergency lunch used to consist of,
well, it's a cheese sandwich, a trip to the salad bar, and a milk, so it's still technically a reimbursable lunch. So we're getting some reimbursement for that, but we just lose, like if they're full paid, we would lose the paid price, and the reduced, we would lose the 40 cents. Though we're still getting some reimbursement for the meal. It's a delicate situation. We have, there's young kids that are, in desperate need for meals. And so when you have a child in tears in the cafeteria, we do everything we can to mitigate and make them happy.
So we don't, did I hear you correctly, at the secondary level? You don't, if the kids don't have the money, they're just out.
Well, we've done it a little bit at the middle schools, but at the high school, and again, we've been a little flexible at the start of the year, but typically at the high school level, they're allowed to charge up to 3 meals. That's the way the system is set up. So, but after that, then if they have charged, especially if they're waiting for a free reduced application to be approved, and that does take a little bit of time, then we could have a little bit of a negative balance we're trying to collect on. But once they hit that third meal, then they either don't eat, or you can't process it without doing the emergency lunch.
Do the kids at the high school level get an emergency lunch?
We really haven't went to that extreme at the high school level. We could. And I guess I'm just trying to be consistent.
Right, no, and I appreciate that. I'm just curious why we wouldn't offer that as well to the high school students.
And we could, it's just, I guess we've really tried to address it more at the elementary just because of the age group.
Okay.
Versus at the high school level, some of them are a little more independent, but it doesn't mean there's not any there, so.
I know at Timberlake High School, they have a basket in their lunchroom where if they've taken an orange or they've taken
a share table.
Yeah, they call it a share table. So if I'm not going to eat my orange, I put it on the share table. So does Lakeland High School do that?
That's something we're just getting back into with COVID. During COVID, we did not do it at all, but generally it would be something that all schools would do.
And then any of the kids have access to that.
Okay.
So it could be milk, fruit, there's certain things we can't do, but so. Any other questions? And then so we have a report that we print that's got those negative balances on it, and we can utilize that for tracking in terms of collection and that kind of thing. Okay. And then we do everything we can to try to, I'll have some schools at the end of the year, they might be under $1, but we do have a few schools that sometimes tend to carry more of the burden there.
Okay.
And I do think the one thing that we do need to be more consistent with this policy is making sure that the policy is distributed to households, you know, at registration or however we want to do that to make sure that it's, and that it's in here on the first page.
It's supposed to be an annual policy.
Under notification at the bottom.
Is that on the annual list? I don't remember seeing it. Was that? No, I was just gonna say, can you make a note to make sure that this is on the annual policy? Potentially, maybe even put in student handbooks.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It says it's, yeah,
What policy numbers?
everywhere, basically,
Yeah.
on the website.
8245, sorry.
Yeah.
It should be everywhere.
I was saying that when you said Kevin.
Do we have a charitable assistance account?
I don't know that we have a specific account, but we do have a few patrons that reach out to us from time to time that ask if we have any specific schools that need assistance, and so we've had cases where, you know, they would write a $500 check and then just ask us to apply it to specific accounts, which reduces the overall negative balance, and so that report I run for Brian at the end of the year would be reduced by that amount. But we don't have a specific account, no.
I just happened to notice this reference to an account here. So that if somebody donates some money, that goes to food services and it's accounted for there.
If they donated like to pay for those bills, yeah, that would go to food service, and then, have we ever had that in the past?
Yeah, so what they would do is sometimes they'll come directly to our office and they'll write the check right there at the office and then ask us to apply it directly
To a specific, like a specific school or specific?
There has been some that have identified a school, and then there's been others that have just
Thank
said,
you, ladies.
Thank you.
apply it where you need to apply it.
Well, as long as we have appropriate accounting for those kind of funds.
Yeah, for sure, it would go into Fund 290 and be directed towards that way. You know, we have definitely the paper trail of the fees and the payment being made.
So, is that going to specific student accounts when that's happening, or is that just going into pay what the district would have to pay at the end of the year to Chartwell's?
Specific accounts.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was going to benefit families and
Yeah, so
kids and not
we actually,
to supplement what we might have to pay at the end of the year. 'Cause I think that's not right.
Directly it does, but.
Right, but
I understand what you're
yeah.
saying, yeah.
So it has to reduce some outstanding balance.
yeah, so we would go into student accounts and reduce those balances,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then we could also make sure too that if they write a check out, in the memo they would put what it's for. We can also make sure that, you know, on the deposit revenue side of things would indicate that as well. I don't know what
Just
it is.
leave it.
Doesn't like it.
Just leave it.
I'm really not trying to.
It's totally fine.
But we could certainly make some notations on that, so.
So as a matter of practice, I'm trying to walk my mind through this. Somebody comes in and gives you $100 toward John Brown Elementary student meal debt. And so you've got 6 students over there. Do you cancel out the 3 charges that they have so they start over? How does that work?
Yeah, so we would apply a specific amount to those accounts to try to zero them out.
Zero them out.
Yep.
Okay, so then the kid can start over and have 3 more charges.
And, you know, we can set the charge limit for whatever you'd like, but 3 is, I mean, because we can go into the system and establish that, so.
I'm just trying to understand what the system is.
3 is good, knowing that that emergency meal is there for the elementary students. But
Yeah, I guess in a sense they, you know, have the get out of jail card, you could
Yeah,
get the
right.
3, but.
You can reoffend.
Yeah.
Well, I think the emergency meal should be universal. In my opinion.
Yeah, and that's fine, and in some cases, it does encourage kids to bring their accounts current.
Yeah, because they can't go get a piece of pizza or have a hamburger there and have a cheese sandwich and a piece of fruit and a thing of milk. But at least their tummies are not
Right.
hungry.
Right.
Do we need to do anything?
No, this is a discussion item.
Information.
Okay, correct. I mean, unless we need to take action to make any changes at this moment, which I don't know.
So the only thing in here is that it says there will not be an alternate meal provided. Is that something that we can update? Because if we're gonna do the emergency meals, we would want to indicate that in the policy.
Correct, which means we would need to take it to the policy committee and have them change the policy.
And I think Lynn had started this with the policy committee, so I think.
Well, she brought it to the policy committee,
Okay.
to, basically weigh in on and make sure we were okay.
Okay.
And I said, no, it has to come to the board, it's not a policy committee, weigh-in matter. But the board could direct the policy committee to update the policy to be in alignment with what I want. If, I mean, everybody else is in agreement. If they're not and you just wanna keep it status quo, then that's fine too, but.
Although status quo would say that even our elementary kids are not getting an alternative lunch. Because it says that there won't be any. Is what Kevin just read.
Yes.
Oh,
it says that there won't be any, it's just that that's what they've been doing, just to make
Out
sure.
of the kindness of their
Other
hearts.
ones have something in their tummies, cause they're already getting, you know, they get those three meals that they're charging to their account going into the negative,
right.
so.
Well, I say we just give it back to the policy committee and say fix it and bring it back.
Hate to make more work for the policy committee.
Oh Lord, have you seen our pages? Pages. What the heck?
I have 3 binders now. 3 binders. I still need more binders to cover. We'll see, we've touched.
We need walls for the
Yeah.
binders.
I think we still keep giving the lunch until the policy is updated with whatever new information.
Keep it status quo
Yeah.
for now until we
Update
have a.
Catch up to current practice.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Alright, next item is the SDIT. We have apparently a student from Lewis and Clark State College who's majoring in elementary education and minoring in special education, who is a volunteer service dog trainer, and she would like to bring her dog in training with her to school with her. We don't have any policies that address this, so she's asking for permission to bring her dog with her to school, who's in training, well, she's in training, so the trainer and the trainee are the same. And I do know that policy committee is trying to address therapy animals in the school and potentially offering therapy dog programs, or Jake calls it a trained dog, but to where emotional support dogs could come into the school to work with the kids that are high behaviors or just be there for any little guy that needs a hug. My only concern is if you open the door for this, you're just opening the door for everything else. I don't know what everything else is. I'm just saying that if we keep opening the doors, eventually we're never closing them. I do think the service dogs, I think that's hugely valuable. I just don't know if it's appropriate for a student teacher in a classroom. Because then she also states that if she comes on board, she wants to continue with bringing her dog and training the dog in school. I don't know how parents would feel about that. I don't know what we do with kids with allergies. I don't know. Or employees with allergies, yes. So I don't know.
What is the superintendent's recommendation?
This is kind of opening Pandora's box. I have seen the benefit of having trained service dogs in the schools, and they have an amazing ability to calm highly agitated students down very quickly. So it is a positive. My concern about this particular situation is it would be an intern who's trying to learn her job as a teacher in the classroom, but then also focusing on her dog.
Yeah.
I would be a lot more comfortable if this was a certified teacher who had their feet under them and had a trained service dog. So that's my only question is she going to be able to give all her full attention to the teaching part of why she's here, if she's also working on training the dog at the same time? But in general, I am definitely in favor of service dogs in schools.
Well, yeah, that was one of my concerns, is that she's not, she's a student teacher, so to speak. And how is she going to be able to train her dog, which, I mean, her letter does state that the dog goes everywhere with her all the time. So I'm curious if the dog has been allowed, I mean, I don't know if she's in class at Lewis and Clark or if she's remote, which doesn't really matter, but I'd like to know if she's in class, is the dog going with her to Lewis and Clark? And I too am concerned about a student teacher trying to learn how to teach, but focusing on her volunteerism with the dog, because the dog needs to be trained. So, I don't know.
I guess my concern is, that if she's on a continually training new animals, how many hours of training do they have with her before she's bringing them in? Are they, if she's got them, they go with her everywhere she goes from the day she gets them.
Right.
Before they're fully trained.
You can't tell, I don't think you can tell from the letter what stage of training the dog is in.
Right.
Well, and this
because
is one.
She's trained 12.
Yeah.
So is this the first month or the 6th month or the
exactly.
whatever?
Well, and I'm assuming this wouldn't be the last dog that she trains, so she would be wanting to,
And is this individual already assigned to be a student teacher here?
I don't believe so.
it says I have 2 more semesters before I begin student teaching,
Yeah.
and until then I have several classes that require observation
She's
hours in school.
searching for
A district that will allow it.
Yeah.
So she's asking what the district's plan is. It sounds to me like she's casting about to see where she can land.
Right. Right. Yeah, she definitely wants to be in a district where her dog will be able to come with her. Selfishly, completely outside of the dog, she's getting her certification in special education.
Right.
And we are so desperate for special education teachers that if we can lure her to Lakeland and keep her here, that would be wonderful.
Right.
So.
Yep.
So it's a discussion thing, so I mean, it
Is
is
there
not
additional
something that we need to-
information that you would want to be able to make an informed decision? Like, I think Trustee Jones' question about what stage of training would this dog be in? Is it months in? Is it brand new? We could ask some additional questions if the board feels like they need more information.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
we would need some direction to be able to respond back.
correct. And I mean, based on her letter, the way I interpreted it was that you could get a brand new puppy, or you could get, you know, the dog that's well behaved and is just gonna sit there, based on where she's at within her training, because it is something she does. It's one of her passions. So I don't know if we would be able to be like, and I suppose this would be something to ponder back with her is, you know, if the district said, yes, your dog would have to be basically trained already and not require direction, guidance, and assistance throughout the day in the classroom while you're supposed to be teaching. So, and then I don't know how appealing that is.
Well, it's a great thing that she's doing, but in essence, she's asking us to work her second job while we're training her for a first job. So will we let any employee or whomever come into the district and work their other job while they're here too? Cause that's what she's asking us.
Ooh, very good point, very good point.
You know, I mean, so if I'm, you know, crisis counselor or something, you know, my stopping in the middle of class, answer the phone, take care of the person, or what, you know what I'm saying? And it's
That's
not her dog, and like, it's not her personal service dog.
Right.
I mean, it's a great thing, it's awesome, especially all the years she has in it, but I just don't see that it's appropriate, you know, for many reasons, but
That's a really good point.
That's an extremely valid point.
Mm-hmm.
We're hurrying.
Time to go.
I was gonna say, what happened to our board norm of meeting is supposed to be
norm,
done, it's a wish.
Well, we still have
Oh.
an hour.
Okay.
9 o'clock is the adjournment. We're almost done.
Okay, no dogs.
Okay.
So are you directing me to let her know that at this time we're uncomfortable, or we're not going to allow the dog?
I'm good with that. Is everybody else?
Yeah.
I am. Mm-hmm. Bob, do you still want more information?
Unless she can make a compelling case and it isn't in the letter.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's all.
Thank you. We've gotten back the new development list. Thank you. It doesn't appear we've had any new developments come in, which is good, I see, but yeah.
Brian will update that and then we'll just bring it to you when there are changes.
And please make sure that we're responding as quickly as possible for cities. I know that in the past that was a frustration, that they were just either not getting a response or it was coming much later. It was coming directly from the city of Rathdrum.
Yeah. The land exchange with the Coeur d'Alene School District, I guess Jeff and Megan went to bat, and the State Department of Education is still saying take it to a vote, so it's gonna go to a vote. Okay.
So it goes to a vote of the patrons, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Just the patrons who are impacted by the land swap, right?
Right. The fall activities.
But doesn't that mean everybody's I mean, we're all impacted, right?
I think it's just within our zone.
Yeah.
Which
but
will be
I'm just
interesting
saying that-
because the part that we're getting, there's nobody living in yet. Right?
So the people in the other one get to decide which
Well, both
district they go into.
districts have to approve affirmatively, right?
Is it open to all Lakeland patrons? Because
That was my interpretation, but that may not be correct.
I thought it was I thought it was just the people who were impacted by the swap.
Let's see, 33.
Well, if that be the case, it's 302 to 0.
Yeah, that doesn't
Wait
make
a minute.
sense.
Right, yeah.
I opt out.
Yeah, there would be no way to actually approve it,
The people
because
in,
we don't have the patrons.
yeah, there aren't any houses yet
Yeah,
really on
so it must be the entire district that it goes to, I mean, the Lakeland School District.
Let's find out.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter, because the state board's saying it has to go to a vote of the patrons, or the.
They aren't gonna allow it to.
But we do need to get some if it
Yeah.
is the whole district, then we need to be getting some information out. Is that on the November ballot? When is that?
That's, I believe, what I
what they
read
were
in her
trying to-
email. Yeah, she said the, something.
This should still go before the state board during the month of October and will be ready to submit to the voters in the next election cycle, which I assumed would be March.
Yeah,
Which is what
it
Megan
has
said.
to be.
So it would be
So
March, yeah.
Which is,
Yeah, it's not going
It's
in
gonna be-
November.
That would already
It's
have,
way too late.
already have had to have
Yeah.
bit the
3308
ballot language
says,
would have had to.
yeah, says that it has to be nearest to 60 days after the state board approves the proposal, so to your March
To the March.
point. And it says that it should be submitted to the school district electors residing in the district from which the area is proposed to be excised, and in the district to which the area is proposed to be annexed, at an election held in the manner provided, blah, 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 blah.
so I need
By
to.
the school
Both
Sounds like
districts.
both districts.
It's just the
district.
districts.
Yeah.
So if either district's voters do not approve it, then it doesn't
And
happen.
it doesn't
Correct.
happen.
That'll be challenging to get some information out to people so they understand.
You get
I
any
just
ins-
don't, it potentially is on the same ballot as our supplemental
Yeah.
plant
Oh,
facility
that's
levies.
not good.
And so I do not want any confusion for our patrons as to
Well, can we just
what's the third
agree or
one.
say that it's not going on the March ballot? I mean, can we bump it to the May ballot, or August? When is the next,
May.
after March? May. Can we bump into the May?
I would request that it be put in May if that's
Yeah.
an option.
But didn't Ramona just read something about
Oh,
the
yeah.
next 60
It has to
days?
be at least 60 days.
Yeah, it says
After.
it's section 5, nearest to 60 days after the state board approves the proposal.
So I don't think that just means that we have to do a good job of explaining why there's a third measure on the ballot.
Let's see, how is 3406?
It's very irritating.
Is everyone on this board convinced that this is a good thing?
No.
No. I gave that up last meeting.
Why are we doing it? Why are we moving forward?
Because we were told by the superintendent at that time, that if we didn't do it, Coeur d'Alene would just take the land anyway.
How can they do that?
They can't. We know that now.
It's not like eminent domain.
You know, in my opinion, we were strong-armed.
Yeah.
I asked
I hate
questions,
to
no
renege
answers
on
were
something,
provided.
but I just.
So, you know the area they're talking about, the right near Atlas Elementary?
Yeah.
So, you know, the current boundary right now, and I could get the maps up there right now, but the issue is there's like a little development called Giovanni Estates, and a couple developments real close to Atlas Elementary. So you actually have some residents who are in the Lakeland School District right now that are closer to Atlas Element, that are, I mean, we're talking 500 feet. And then you go a little farther north, further away from Atlas Elementary, and they're in the Coeur d'Alene district. And then you go a little farther north and you go back to the Lakeland district. So you literally have neighborhoods who are chopped up. Yeah. And so that little annexation that happened several years ago when the residents, under that code, that 3308, residents can ask for the boundary change. And so residents at that time asked for the boundary change, and I think at the time the Coeur d'Alene district was, both districts might have been neutral. Maybe Coeur d'Alene was 4, I can't remember. But it was just this one little jig-jog section, because it's just a section of the houses that currently existed at the time. And then they voted and it got approved. So then another jig-jog came to the boards several years ago. This is like 10 years ago, or maybe not that, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And asked, again, this was resident driven, asked to go through this process. I think the board at the time at Lakeland was against. Chairman Brown was here at the time. And Coeur d'Alene, I think, was neutral. And we actually had a hearing. They had a hearing at actually Atlas Elementary. At that time, the state board hearing officer recommended, you know, maybe the districts could try to solve this boundary, because it was clear that this is going to keep happening by the residents who are living right next to Atlas Elementary. That maybe if we, you know, tried to find arterials or squared up the boundaries, that would be a better way to go about for everybody involved. And so that's when this process sort of started happening. That's the background of it. So if this doesn't go through, which is fine, we will have more of these requests in incremental, and could lose, you know, because both districts could say they're for a boundary change. Both districts could say they're against a boundary change. Ultimately, the state board can recommend and go to the voters, and it doesn't matter what the districts say, ultimately, how those decisions are made. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the final step is the voters, the public deciding.
Correct, and I do not believe, you'd have to look, I don't think it's the whole district. I think it's just those people impacted.
Who are looking to be annexed into
Correct.
the district.
It's the people whose property taxes will be impacted. So if you're up in Athol, you don't get a vote on that boundary change because it doesn't impact you.
In this particular situation, there's a trade going on, right?
Correct. So the area of Hayden Canyon development out by Lancaster,
okay,
that area would be going to Lakeland, and then the new boundary for Coeur d'Alene and Lakeland would start, it would be Hayden Avenue, would be the north-south, which it currently is for the most part,
right.
but not near, but at Atlas, it jig-jogs for a while west. So it would go, the north-south would be, at least in that area, would be Hayden Avenue, and then the east-west would be Hutter. Now, right now, you go through, the boundary actually goes through the airport. If you look at the district boundary.
I know that.
Yeah, and then when it hits Atlas, you know, if you're at Atlas, if you're east of Atlas, for the most part, you're Coeur d'Alene, and if you're west, you're Lakeland.
Right.
So we'd move that boundary over to Hutter. But, so, you know,
in all honesty, the real heartburn that I have over this issue is the inequity of it. Coeur d'Alene gets about a 10-to-1 advantage in terms of property values. I mean, we're giving up, what, 11 million, something like that, and getting about $1 million in return, I think. I don't remember the exact numbers, but It's almost 10 to 1, I think. And I don't understand why we would enter that kind of a deal. I mean, if you want to make a trade, then make it an equitable trade. And that's not equitable.
I think the thinking was at the time when Hayden Canyon gets developed, that will be, the value would be.
That's betting on the come.
Well, that could be, you know, I don't know.
If you're a crap shooter, you can do that.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, that was the thinking when they did that, and it squared up the boundaries. I guess the other thinking when we talked with Coeur d'Alene, and I'm neutral on this, you know, whatever the pleasure of the board is that it was clear from past decision by the state board that if push comes to shove and the residents ask for it incrementally over time, we would probably lose the land anyway.
Well, we certainly would in this instance if there's nobody living on the land that we have to give up to vote for us, one way or the other. I mean, there's a second inequity, I guess.
I guess, well...
But I'm wrong, I've just read the statute, it's the whole district that will vote.
Well, Brian's thinking
He's talking
it's
about,
not,
he's talking about if a small subdivision wishes to annex, like we have West Bonner, or Bonner County people who are, they request that they annex into our district.
Right.
The people who live within that area are the only people who vote because they're going to be impacted by the change in taxes.
Right.
So what Ryan is saying is that if we say we don't want to do this land swap, but a subdivision of people want to be annexed into Coeur d'Alene because they can literally see Atlas Elementary from where they live, and the state board allows it, then we lose those people, and the only people who have to vote are those people in that subdivision.
And that's as I understood that was a law we're moving to, so I thought that would be the rules of the game. I don't know.
No, based on what Ramona just read now.
Because
Well,
that 33...
308, I guess what would have to be clarified is who are those being excised and who
Correct.
are those
It's
being
those-
annexed. It doesn't specifically say.
It would be the maps that we drew out. It'd be those areas. So yes. So for example, that process happened with the West Landings, which is, you know, just south. It's the development that is just barely off of Hutter, but south of Prairie. It's called the West Landings. There's the Landings, which is definitely, the West Landings used to be in Post Falls School District.
Right.
So the residents there initiated the petition and hired the surveyor and did all that with the boundaries and did, you know, followed those things and asked to go to Coeur d'Alene. And so both boards, I think, I can't remember the time, I was working for Coeur d'Alene, I can't remember if they're either neutral, I think Coeur d'Alene might have been for it, Post Falls might have been neutral, I can't remember. And anyway, it did go to a vote, and it was just the West Landings vote, and they ended up moving to Coeur d'Alene.
And Coeur d'Alene's really good at building schools close to other district boundaries,
Yes,
so that they can entice our people who are close.
They desperately wanted to build a school out next to Government Way in Lancaster at one time, and approached us to annex that property. And our response was, yeah, that's about 40 acres. We'll take the 40 acres where the Coeur d'Alene Resort is.
Right.
But what
you know, I mean, you gotta play hardball with those
well,
folks, I'm telling you, because this
Coeur
is
d'Alene-
what happens, and they'll nickel and dime you to death.
Well,
That's exactly what they're
but what I'm saying, I guess what I'm saying is that you know, the residents could come forth and say, hey, we would like to be excised out of Lakeland and go to Coeur d'Alene. You know, the board could say, we're opposed to that. The Coeur d'Alene board could even say, as a good neighbor, we're opposed to that. The neighbors still have the chance to go to the state board and have their case, and the state board hearing officer says, no, I agree with the residents that this is best for the kids. It'll go to the vote regardless of the district's opinions. I'm just telling you that sort of what happened before.
No, I fully accept what you're saying, and I think what happened, I don't know, is that, you know, an effort was made to try to make a trade, you know, in order to accommodate those folks who wanted to have that change made and us get something out of it. But what we got out of it was not equal to what we're giving up, and that's my bone of contention. The fact that people want to make that change, I understand why they would if you live within a quarter of a mile of a school. But by the same token, we have an obligation to protect the interests of Lakeland School District as a whole.
No, I don't disagree.
So consequently, we should be making a trade that's equitable and fair.
That's always been our argument. The other thing is I want to know who's going to vote on it because it's empty land. There are no residents on either piece.
There were a few residents. It wasn't completely empty. It was mostly.
Oh, well, we weren't told that. We were told there was nothing, because that was also our contention, is that future tax base or whatever, and we kept being told that people have to vote on it, it doesn't matter, blah, 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 which we get that too. But, so we need clarification. We need legal to tell us exactly who's voting, and also when we can run this, because 34106 says that the Tuesday of March and the last of August of each year is for bond indebtedness and property tax levy questions. Otherwise, it has to follow 34106, which is May, the third Tuesday of May. That would be, or November. November is not 60 days away, so it would have to be May.
May or
March. Well, it says May, March, and the statute specifically says that March and August are specifically given to school districts for bond indebtedness and property tax levy, which this is neither of those.
So
Correct.
So I wish it to May then.
Yes.
Right, and we don't.
Should still verify, I guess.
We can reach out with Megan and get that, because she's been working that. We don't have, it's out of our hands on when it would be. I mean, it would be up to the state board at that point. And just for further, just regarding that area, where the new apartments are, the Viking homes right there. The land just south of that, a very large parcel, is owned by Coeur d'Alene Schools, right on the border. So, I mean, at some point there'll probably be a school there, and so effectively, those apartments would be in Lakeland, and there's going to be a school right just dead south of Coeur d'Alene. So, as Lisa said, they have schools right on the edge. So I think long run, if there is a school there, eventually, probably after I'm no longer working, I'm retired and on the beach, that eventually, if we don't firm up the boundaries, it'll go to Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what that tells us is we need to be cognizant and aware of that kind of happening to the extent that we're looking to see what area we want. That will make it fair and equitable.
Well, and if that was known, why didn't we know about it?
Who knows?
Yes, but anyway, hindsight for that one. Huh?
Water under the bridge, Bob.
Our bridge is floated away now.
Yeah,
We just got a big river, but.
Would it be alright if I reach out to Megan O'Dowd and asked her for some clarification on when we can hold the vote and who votes?
Right.
And let her know that we have some consternation right now and we're trying to work through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome. Moving on to the fall activities drug testing results.
So for the Lakeland High School, it says THC / opiates, and then in parentheses it says poppy seed. So just so the board is aware of the process, when the kids do their drug testing, if it shows up positive, then they go in and they actually redo the test in their actual lab, because they can better analyze it. And when they did that with this particular student, they were able to determine that the opiate that was initially found actually did come from poppy seeds, and so that student obviously there were no penalties for that. So they do follow up when there's a positive like that, so that they can verify. Because right away the student said, I had poppy seed muffins.
Right.
And so that's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
But that's why it reads the way that it does.
I love the layout of this. What I would ask is if,
cause I read, Timberlake's first, and I liked how it was laid out, but then Lakeland actually went through and showed us, the number of students in each
I
category.
agree. I liked
really
that too.
liked
I was
that.
gonna ask the same
Yeah.
thing.
I
so,
will
yeah.
ask, Ms. Walton to add that for Timberlake High School.
But thank you, it was appreciated to get the information.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of randomly selecting lots of different groups are being tested, and our kids are doing a good job of not having
Yeah.
positive.
Not very many.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments? Moving on to the special education shortages. We have them.
Yes,
Okay.
and I thought it was important, rather than just sending the board an update, I do think it's important for our patrons to also know,
Yes.
that, this is a nationwide shortage. I actually saw on the news that they were saying that 53% of all school districts in the nation started the school year understaffed. So there's just manpower issues across the country. Where we're struggling the most right now, well, we're definitely struggling to find special ed teachers, but we are really struggling to find paras. And so Betty Kiefer Elementary right now, I think they're short 4 paras, which is significant. We have, we're having to be really creative in how we're putting teachers in place, because there are no special education teachers applying, so we're being creative. And special education law does not help us. So for every other teaching position, we can do an emergency provisional, we can do an alternate authorization. We cannot do that for special ed. So we are really having to get creative and think outside the box. But at all of our buildings, we are hearing that we need more help. So if the board hears from patrons or staff, I just want you to know we are doing everything we can to try to fill those holes, but it's a struggle. And then transportation, we're in the same boat. So we have 2 people out for medical. They will eventually come back. We had 1 resign, and so right now our admin assistant, our assistant transportation director, and our director are all driving every day. Where we're really feeling the pinch is activities and athletics. So we have historically said that kids have to ride the bus to the event and then can ride home with parents. We're having parents transport kids to and from. Parents are signing permission slips for children to ride with family friends, which is not ideal, but if we aren't doing that, we're not participating in any activities. So our transportation predicament right now is dire. Okay. I reached out to Dina Nacarado. Timberlake High School had a track meet in OMAC, and we had no bus to get them there. They wanted to rent vans and have the coaches drive, which made me nervous, having them teach all day, then drive to an event, get done at 10 and drive back. That just seemed like a really long day, and I was not comfortable with that. So I reached out to Dina Nacarado, who is the superintendent in Post Falls, and she reached out to her transportation director to see if they had any drivers who would drive for us. And they didn't, so then we reached out to Coeur d'Alene, and Coeur d'Alene actually loaned us a driver. They drove our bus and they drove our kids. Okay. So we're working with our neighboring districts. Everybody's trying to pitch in and help, but it's bad.
It is.
What is our liability or insurance coverage if we're having parents shuttle their own children and other students in private cars to school events?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, they are their children and they get to make some of those decisions, and we don't
Right,
have
absolutely.
transportation to provide for them. But I do think that we're out there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, certainly there's been cases where, like you said, parents are driving students from an event
Right.
afterwards. So, there's, I guess you can always be sued, but
Yeah,
we definitely, if a lawsuit came to be, defended by, the insurance company and things like that, I don't think we have a lot of liability there. The larger liability definitely is if it's a district employee driving and you're in a non-standard bus and things like that, that's where the liability gets greater. Like the activity buses that we just submitted the purchase order for that the board approved. Those are at least vehicles that the Department of Transportation's approved for this use. They're not top heavy. The real liability that's happened is like those 16 passenger vans, those big Econoline vans. Those are where a lot of accidents have happened, not just with kids in schools, but just
everything, yeah.
charter groups and stuff, because those type of rigs, they get really top heavy. And especially if you load them up with 16 people and luggage and all that, and they're just more prone to rollovers and things like that. And so that's the one that our insurance company would highly recommend that please don't go down that path.
Can we find out our liability, and also we need to change our policy, because our policy explicitly states that they cannot do that.
But yeah, we
If we're
reach
stuck in
out
that
to
spot, yeah,
the
we need
insurance
to
company.
fix that, yeah.
I would tell you that, I'm not sure about Idaho, but I know that there are school districts outside of Idaho that exclusively, all activities are transported by parents and or students.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't matter if you have to get there or get home or anything, I just wanna make sure our liability.
That's correct. I think when you get into the liability for us, is when we have a school employee driving a vehicle, which may or may not be district owned, but the closeness comes closer together at that point in terms of the liability issues.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we do have written documentation every time parents are either giving permission for the child to drive with somebody or they are transporting. So we do have that. So I will check with my friend.
Thank you. We have a student club application form.
So this is not actually in the form format. These are just the questions, and kind of what we had talked about last time was, if you're requesting that your club be school sponsored, then answer these questions. If you're asking that it's not school sponsored, then answer these questions. So that's how I set it up, just so you could see the questions. Rebecca or Chelsea will have to help me create a fillable form. I just wanted to see if the questions were the right ones.
The last question might be benefit to your school and or students.
Do we want to approve non-school sponsored clubs?
couple of years, more time on non-academic, when we need curriculum, I mean, so much of our time keeps getting taken up by non-academic issues. I'm ready just to say school sponsored only and, leave it at that. You know, I know there'll be a lot of clubs affected, I know it probably won't be a popular answer, but,
Would it be possible for me to comment on this?
Sorry. No,
Is it
not appropriate, not appropriate. We received some input from ISBA about the advantages, disadvantages of school sponsored and not school sponsored. I do think we've kind of, the way this, because I don't think you were on board yet. I'm not sure, were you on board?
Depends on.
Well, the reason school clubs even became the forefront is I asked about a specific club and nobody knew anything, and then it was discovered that nobody even knew what clubs were running around in schools, which isn't how it should be. So now we've kind of opened this and we've discovered that school clubs aren't really, being run according to policy. And when I read all that literature that we were given about school sponsored or non-school sponsored, I do think it would be, there needs to be some structure to the school clubs. And I do agree with the academic, component. I think that's very important.
Sometimes I'm left thinking of the difference between co-curricular and extracurricular. School sponsored versus non-school sponsored. School sponsors extracurricular activities, but they are truly extracurricular, they're not tied to a curricular program. And I think what I heard you say, Ramona, is you'd like to see them all tied to a curricular program if possible. Yeah, that's a real struggle for me, I guess. I know why you're headed that way, but how to weave through it is a problem.
I think it's fairly clear what, school sponsored is and isn't. But the board can choose to do whatever they want to do, but that's just my.
I think you can have a school sponsored club or activity that isn't necessarily tied to a curriculum.
Well, yeah, absolutely, right.
And that would be okay.
Right, yeah.
Question?
Thank you.
So an example of that would be Key Club, National Honor Society.
National Honor Society, obviously, and ones of that type.
Well, sponsored clubs, it states, are curriculum, and non-sponsored are non-curriculum.
Is that in our policy?
No, that's what I'm reading, what we were provided from ISBA. The sponsored clubs are clubs that have the support and the direction of the district. They're on subjects related to classes the school offers, for instance, a French club, a debate club. Sponsored clubs are supported by the school and directed by school staff. Non-sponsored, non-curriculum clubs aren't related to specific class, and they don't carry the endorsement of the district or the charter of the school.
They can be groups, like the Young Republicans, the Good News Club. While the school provides space for groups to meet and they provide a willing staff member to make sure the school rules are followed, staff don't lead or direct the meeting. Non-sponsored club activities are student-driven. Clubs that advocate particular religious or political beliefs must be non-sponsored. Whether to allow a new club or whether to designate it as sponsored or non-sponsored should be decided at the district level rather than at the school level. Districts and charter schools, these decisions should be made based on criteria that are applied consistently and fairly. Boards should be easily careful to be clear as to which clubs are sponsored and which are non-sponsored.
I struggle with that narrow definition that they give in there. Because I think they're worthwhile clubs and organizations for young people that are not directly tied to math or reading or science or social studies or something else, or be French or German or whatever. And yet they're supportive of the academic endeavors, I think.
What would we like to do in moving forward?
I guess, I'd like a little more time. Research and whatnot. I kind of see both sides of this coin, but I'm not sure which side I'm on.
That is not an easy one.
No clubs.
No clubs? No clubs day?
No.
That's always an option as well.
We already kind of been threatened a little bit.
I'm tired of being threatened, but yes, I'm tired of being threatened.
You know, we get, the majority of our correspondence doesn't have to do with academics, and that's sort of my frustration. You know, I mean, we're a school district, but the majority of our correspondence doesn't have to do with academics, doesn't have to do with curriculum, doesn't have to do with education. You know, and that's my frustration after being here this long. I really would like to be able to focus a little more on education and academics.
Well, we are going back to our roots
Yes,
of
we are.
education, which is a blessing.
We're getting there.
Yes.
We got to buy curriculum, that was great.
It's the little things that we know.
Yeah.
For sure. Some more time? So we can actually
Yes,
move
just
it off of discussion and make it, an action item for the November meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, is there any additional information or, data or anything that you would want me to bring? Or provide for you?
We already have a full list of clubs and organizations, so. We'll have to kind of sort out that list.
I think that the ones that we have approved this school year stay
Yes.
in for this school year,
Yeah, I
and
agree
then,
with
but
that.
any new requests would follow whatever new.
Well,
If that's, if we can do that, yeah.
Yeah, see, I would think that we would just close our borders. And then whatever changes we choose to make would impact the next school year. And then we would just go from there. I mean, we could just say no more clubs this year because it's just, yeah, I'm tired of being threatened. So we'll bring it up in November for a vote. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, that'd be great. Last item for discussion is the clerk desk. Rosanna sent out an email to the facilities department. Her desk, we can't buy her leg extenders, so the desk is too high. And she's doing everything to accommodate that, but it's actually giving her physical pain.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
So
Okay.
she went to facilities, they didn't have a desk available, so their solution was to cut the legs off of her desk. And I said, no, that we're not gonna destroy furniture. So I would like us to just direct the district to buy her a new desk, to get her a desk that will work in her office for her specifically. So.
Okay.
Yeah, do it.
Good.
So if she can have her own desk for her office specifically, brand new, value box, that'd be great. Alright, any possible action item from the discussion? I think not. Any other input for future items? New.
Just a comment, you know, we ended up with this conflict tonight between our meeting here and the Region 1 meeting.
Yes.
And so I would like to ask that in future years, maybe the clerk can monitor that so that we can avoid that kind of conflict. I really do think it's important that we have some involvement in the Region 1 ISBA activities.
I agree.
Because superintendents meet every month, they have a chance to exchange ideas and so forth, and this is the one opportunity we have regionally to do that, so, yeah.
Sounds good.
We do also, just as a reminder coming up, so we have our board meeting and then we have the ISB conference in
Right.
Fort Wayne this.
Starts the next day.
Yeah.
Yep. Great. Yep. So that'll be a short meeting.
Oh, sure, when you have something to do in the morning.
I have something to do every morning, Randy. All right, with that said, I will go ahead and entertain a motion to enter into executive code pursuant to Idaho Code 742061B and D.
So moved.
Brave Bob.
Bob, you say no.
Ramona seconded by
Okay.
simultaneous motions. I say she
Simultaneous
seconded
motion,
it.
yes, it's a first and a second. Therefore, we need a roll call vote.
Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Gibson.
Yes.
Trustee Jones. Trustee Banks. And Trustee Finn.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
And don't worry about it, stand in the executive.
There's dinner.
That's
Dinner behind you.
Oh.
I brought it in early, kind of on the very even before the meeting.
Yeah, we did. When I'm rushing in at 5:30, 5:29.
Actually, you came in early today.
I did make it a little bit faster today.
Okay, so we've come out of executive session. There are no post-executive session action items. Therefore, the meeting is adjourned. It is